So we've reached the 4th chapter today, and just to recap briefly, we appreciate that in the first chapter, this remarkable question was asked about Dharma by Sannyasi Thakur. He's saying, if Dharma is one, how come there are so many different opinions about it by philosophical souls, etc.? Is it Gyan? Is it Karma? Is it Bhakti? Like they are deliberating about it. Not even on that level, but just on the principle of who is God. If we use the term God, for example, that term itself is like an impersonal word for the Lord. It's like if I say to you tree. So what type of tree? There are many millions of trees. But if I say mango tree, jackfruit tree, you get a picture of those trees. But if I just say God, that's something of an impersonal mood. It covers all the impersonal aspects. It's got no form. It's got no pastimes. It's got something absolute beyond comprehension. But we say the specific name Krishna. This is real Dharma, to connect with the Supreme Lord. So other religions and Dharmas, if they don't have knowledge and understanding of the personality of Godhead, they're only on the way to that. And it's described by Babaji that in all different countries and traditions, they have built up different perspectives on Dharma. But there is one Dharma, one Vastu, Krishna. And the Jiva is a Vastu also, an all-abiding object or entity. And Maya Devi is also a Vastu, 3 Vastus. So this was discussed in the first chapter. And the first chapter also was opened out the beautiful connection between Sannyasi Thakur and his Guru Maharaj. First of all, they went to visit Pradumna Kunj, and they met Pradumna Das Brahmachari there. Or Nrsimhapali they went to. Yes. And he saw the demonstration between Guru and Shishya. So this was a great step in his progress. And then there's the beautiful revelation when Prem Das Babaji is meditating in Nishanta Lila, and he tells Sannyasi Thakur, he's not even Vaishnava Das at that time, right at the beginning, silence the monkey kakati, because Prem Das Babaji can see his eternal Swarup. So he knows his qualifications straight away. This is giving us such insight into the personalities who are dictating this. These personalities are utterly Mahabhagavats, Prem Das Babaji, etc. So we're getting a mood from this first chapter. This first chapter, I told you before, my Gurudev says, is the main chapter of all the whole Jaiva Dharma. Out of the 40 chapters, this first chapter contains the most focus. And that aspect about Leela is the principal aspect within this chapter. How to come to that place. The second chapter was the very beautiful question that it's saying, if the Jiva is infinitesimal, how can his eternal Dharma be full and pure? If he's so minute, how can he be full and pure in his pure Dharma? So this whole chapter delineates this question. And if that natural function of the Jiva is formed at the time he is constituted, how can that function be eternal? Where is eternality in the Jiva if there's some formation of the Jiva, some manifestation of the Jiva? The Jiva is coming from an eternal place. So Sannyasi Thakur is seeing it through the material gradations of time. He's asking it like that. Straight away, Babaji starts to answer that and purifies that misconception about time. So this whole chapter is about this and moving through that. And so many truths in that area. And then we come to the last chapter that we've just been through, very beautifully, about karma and what is pure bhakti. Lahari Maharshi. Oh, first of all, in this third chapter, we get the incredible, extraordinary vision or spurti that Vaishnava Das has. And or Sannyasi Thakur, he's still Sannyasi Thakur when he sees that vision. And that inconceivable vision is enough to completely convince him totally to throw away his Ekadanda staff, to throw away his previous so many years as a sannyasi, because he saw that inconceivable vision. Understand? He saw the atmosphere of pure Vrindavan. He saw Narad. He saw all these pure associates dancing, etc., chanting the holy name. So that took him right off the bodily platform completely. And then he was able to totally drop that misconception about himself as being a great Brahmavad, Mayavad sannyasi, Brahmagyani sannyasi. And then he takes his dress off, etc. And then Lahari Maharshi, who's a very accomplished kami, not understanding what is the supreme absolute truth of Vaishnavism, asked the question about Sandhya Vandana, coming from a mood of a Brahminical perspective. And all the way through this chapter, then now Vaishnava Das is answering this beautiful question. And he delineates specifically the varnas and ashramas in here to show the variegated natures of the jivas and their adhikar in performing Shuddha Bhakti. They're not all having the same at all. Every jiva in existence is different, just like every tree in the forest is different. This variegated nature, that's why in the institutional environment, it's very hard to actually break into the realm of Shuddha Bhakti, because in the institutional environment, it has to be curtailed, because otherwise it can't be controlled. If everyone is just letting their own individuality manifest, then that's going to make it very difficult for any managers of an institute. It can't flourish that way. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has said, Bhakti cannot flourish in an institutional environment. It has a lot of positive results on the world stage, but as far as the individual's growth in Bhakti is concerned, there is some restriction there. If the devotee within that institution realizes the restriction, then he can cross over it. But if he doesn't realize the restriction, he can't climb over it, just like we said before. If a madman knows he's mad, then he's not mad anymore. But if he doesn't know he's mad, he's really mad. So if you appreciate the limitations in an institution and still can work within it, well, that's to our advantage. But otherwise, generally, that doesn't work. But then he's explaining so many aspects in this third chapter, and principally when he's establishing what is Naimittic Dharma. And he says here on page 46, however, Naimittic Dharma is in essence incomplete, asampurna, adulterated, mishra, impermanent, achir and fit to be rejected, heya. He says this chapter's titled, Naimittic Dharma must be relinquished. So we've discussed that at length. And this is very, very powerful chapter, that chapter 3. So now we come to chapter 4. So Vaisnava-dharma is Nitya-dharma. Lahari Maharshi's kutir was adjacent to that of Vaishnava Das. A few mango and jackfruit trees stood nearby, and the entire area was adorned with small betel plants. Always Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving the backdrop of beauty. Just like in Vrindavan Leela, we always have the backdrop of the Jamuna, of the cows, of the beautiful forests, of the different bird life, etc., all the different creatures. We get the sound vibration of the place where the pastimes are being performed. So here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is following that same mood and tradition. In the courtyard there was a large circular platform which had been there for many years since the time of Pradumna Brahmachari. Yes, Pradumna Brahmachari is described in Mahaprabhu's Leela. This is from today, more than 500 years ago. The Vaishnavas had since called it the Surabhi terrace, or Surabhi terrace, and would circumambulate it, offering Dandavat pranams with faith. So this is where Bhaktivinoda Thakur has his residence today. In Surabhi Kunj, where we're speaking from now, this was originally Bhaktivinoda Thakur's residence. This is the main reason why people visit Surabhi Kunj, to honor Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is why they come here. The evening twilight had just yielded to dusk. Sri Vaishnava Das was sitting in his cottage on a mat of leaves, chanting Harinam. It was the dark fortnight of the moon, and the night gradually settled into darkness. A lamp was flickering in Lahari Mahashai's kutia, and by its light he suddenly noticed what appeared to be a snake by his doorway. He quickly adjusted the lamp and took up a stick to kill the snake, but it had already vanished. So it's as if the influence of the material energy is becoming prominent. Seeing a snake, all of a sudden you come right down from your high place of meditation, etc. What is that? Now all of a sudden I'm thinking I might die. How much have I understood that I'm not the body? So Lahari has not understood this fact, which we're going to see revealed. He's completely afraid of this. What's that verse? Bhayam dvitiya biniveshitam syat isat upasarya. Bhayam dvitiya biniveshitam sat isat upasarya. Yes, this verse. Bhayam dvitiya biniveshitam syat isat upatasya viparya ushmiti. Buddha apajitam. This verse. So this is saying that fear arises from material absorption. From material absorption only. That's the only place. And what is the biggest consideration? It's death. What is the verse? Isat upatasya viparyo shmiti tanmaya toyo badua badachat patya keksham guru devatma. It's a beautiful verse. But this is where fear and Lahari is completely engulfed in fear by seeing the snake. It's a wonderful example how Bhaktivinoda Thakur brings it. He brings it from this high level of contemplation, and he brings it right down to, well, are you ready to die for this philosophy? Like, this is what this last chapter was about. Giving up these temporary holds on Dharma. All the Falshruti is saying the same thing. Understand, it's the same message over and over and over and over. It's pounding it into becoming, hopefully, a realization in the jiva. Because it's the main principle. It's the same teachings of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In the chapters of Bhagavad Gita, Dehinoshmin yata dehi, komaram yovaram jara, dhiras tattaradimuyate. What's that? The last line. Dhiras tattaradimuyate. Anyway, haven't got it. So, all of these verses in Bhagavad Gita, yehi samspasajo bhava, dune evite, akunte yante, nateshu pramati. I can't remember them clearly. But the verses within Gita are all saying the same principle about appreciating the spirit prominently rather than the temporary material nature. It's the same message. So, be careful, he told Vaishnava Das. A snake may have just entered your kutia. So now he's disturbing someone else. He got disturbed, and as a result, he's going to disturb or try to disturb, but he doesn't realize this is a saint here. Vaishnava Das is a saint. Lahari Mahashai, why are you so disturbed about a snake? There's no need to be disturbed. It's part of the material energy. If the snake bites you by Krishna's arrangement, then by Krishna's arrangement, you have to deal with that. Either become cured of it or leave your body from it. Why are you so disturbed about a snake? Replied Vaishnava-das. Come and sit inside my kutia with me, and don't be afraid. So he's giving him material shelter. Very gentle mood. Come, I will protect you from these material thoughts, etc. Lahari Maharshi entered Vaishnava-das's kutia and sat on a mat of leaves, but he still felt some mental anxiety about the snake. O great soul, he said, our Shantipur is good in this respect, for there is no fear of snakes, scorpions, and other such creatures there. In Nadia, there is always danger from snakes. It is especially difficult for a refined gentleman to live in a forested area like Godram. Very wonderful. We're seeing he considers himself a refined gentleman, not a spirit soul. Vaishnava-das is just sitting there as a completely realized spirit soul. But this is a refined gentleman, a brahmana. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is building the picture. What is about to be purified here? His misconception of his bodily identity is going to be purified. It's already being purified to such a degree where he's taken up residence here and he's seriously chanting Hare Krishna here. But we're seeing the time frame that it's needed to actually go through until realization comes. I said the other day, this first requisite of sadhana is patience. Remember, patience. It's going to take time. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is demonstrating this through his mood. Sri Vaishnava Das Babaji explained, Lahari Maharshi, it is senseless to agitate the mind over such matters. Yes, what is the purpose to become distracted and afraid of something like this? We have to control the senses. Vaishnava Das was controlling his senses for many years as a Brahmavad Mayavad sannyasi. And he's carrying that same principle of self-control into his identity as a Vaishnava now. So that was the adhikar that Sannyasi Thakur came with. That's why he advanced so quickly. You must have heard the story of Parikshit Maharaj in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He gave up all fear of his impending death by snake bite, and with an unflinching heart drank the nectar of Harikatha from Sri Shukadev's mouth. So straight away he's bringing the whole consciousness to Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus he tasted supreme transcendental bliss. A snake can never bite the chitta deha. The pure body cannot be bitten by a snake. If you're convinced of your chitta deha, and perhaps in the neophyte early stages we're not convinced. We're more confident about our material identity than we are of our spiritual identity. We're putting that more in the forefront in our various activities, etc. Don't illusion ourselves. If we're spending 4 or 5 or 6 hours a day working within the material realm, it means we have that much faith and belief within the material strength. We're giving that much time. If you don't want that much time and you just simply decide to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna will arrange to be more immersed in his direct seva. Of course, if we're working and we're contributing all of our wealth, that's Nishkaram Karma Yoga, to Krishna, then we're performing healthy progress on the path from Nishkam, then can come Gyan Yoga, and then will come Bhakti. So it's okay to do like that. Understand it fully. The philosophy that is leading to the Leela. How can we do that? Because it has to be a complete immersion. When we hear and read about Raghunath Das Goswami or any of the Goswamis, they were fully immersed 24 hours a day. Perhaps they would become unconscious for 20 minutes even, or maybe an hour at most of the day for resting. And even then they would dream about Radha and Krishna. So this is our objective, If the objective is clear, you can make progress. If the objective is not clear, how can you make progress? You'll simply be trying to acquire a comfortable place here. And that is like the death knell. When we were saying this yesterday, trying to acquire a comfortable solution while I'm traveling through. No benefit. Thus he tasted supreme transcendental bliss. A snake can never bite the Chittadeha. The only snake that can wound the spiritual body is the snake of separation from topics of Sri Hari. How beautiful is that? Very beautiful. This is, the gopis say the same thing. They say, you saved us from all the forest fire, you saved us from Vyomasura, you saved us from Indra's powerful rain. Now you must save us from this biggest demon of separation from you. Now you must quickly come and show yourselves again to us. The gopis sing in Gopi Geet. In the third verse, they're singing like this. The material body is not eternal, and one will certainly have to give it up someday. Back to basics. It keeps coming back to basics. Why? Why does it keep coming back to basics? Because we don't move forward on it. What is this cloud? What is this thickness that stops us moving forward on it? It's our attraction and attachment to the material world. Simple as that. That's what's slowing us down. As far as the body is concerned, we should simply perform the karma that is necessary to maintain it and nothing more. Whatever are the necessities, don't try and accumulate more than what is necessary. What's that second verse of Upadeshamrita? Atyahara prayasya prajalpo niyamagraha and Jnana Sangha Loliam Cha. Yes, don't try and be greedy for more. Rupa Goswami spelling it out. You all have to learn your verses better than me. You're supposed to be helping me get the verses. When the body collapses by the will of Krishna, it is only by the will of Krishna when your karmic cycle has concluded in this birth, by his will. It cannot be saved by any kind of effort. Especially we see that today even. They put you on some life machine or some life support machine, right? And try and prolong the life of a vegetable for some reason and not allow the soul to go on its journey forward. But until the designated time for the demise of the body has arrived, a snake cannot harm a person, even if he is sleeping right next to it. And just as a footnote, if you've ever taken a parikrama of Govardhan, then it's described in the Puranas that a snake cannot bite you anyway. If you've actually done Govardhan parikrama, then a snake will never bite. But still, even hearing that, we'll be afraid. If suddenly it's, we'll all get all panicky about it. Rather than just calmly accept it and make a noise and wait for it to go out, which you probably will do, unless your karma is to be bitten by one. If the mind is agitated by such fears, how will one be able to fix it upon the lotus feet? Oh, I missed something here. Therefore, one may not introduce himself as a Vaishnava until he gets rid of his fear of snakes and all such things. I'm asking everyone listening, are we all free from fear of snakes and such things? No? So then, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we're not yet Vaishnavas. This is a healthy mood to appreciate. I am aspiring to be a Vaishnava. I am aspiring for that. My whole life is to aspire to be a Vaishnava, aspire for pure seva. Even my Gurudev, who was doing festivals 365 days of the year, never considered that he was pleasing his Gurudev sufficiently. He could never have that feeling that we're doing enough. Otherwise, the greed will just dissipate and go. If the mind is agitated by such fears, how will one be able to fix it upon the lotus feet of Sri Hari? So one should certainly stop being afraid of snakes and trying to kill them out of fear. Lahari said with some faith, as a result of hearing your words, which are just befitting a sadhu, like as if a sadhu is something different from a spirit soul. A sadhu is a spirit soul who has evolved to a position where he's not afraid of snakes, but he's still coming from that conditioned place. My heart has become free from all kinds of fear. So this is like the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, because today is Gita Jayanti, so it's like the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Now I have understood that one can obtain the highest benefit only when the heart becomes elevated. The consciousness is raised by the chanting of the Mahamantra principally. Many great souls who are engaged in the worship of Bhagavan live in mountain caves, and they are never afraid of wild animals that live there. Rather, out of fear and materialistic association, they have given up living with other human beings, and they live among the wild animals instead. So I'm going to stop here. It's now 6 o'clock here, and I only want to do this one brief hour daily so that it will be easy for everyone to maintain. If we go longer, then over a course of 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, it's going to perhaps challenge people's schedule. But if our schedule is just to immerse ourselves in Krishna, then we can sit here and read for another 3 or 4 hours. But I'm not sure that everyone wants to just give up their material activities, etc. We all think we have more things to do. So tomorrow we'll start from page 55. Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. So I think page 54? 55 top, okay. So I'll just read the previous paragraph. So remember, the pastime is that Lahari Mahashai, he was spoken to by Vaishnava Das in the assembly about the nimitic aspect of Sandhya Vandana and the Brahminical culture and caste, etc. And all that Lahari Mahashai took to be most valuable, he brought down just to rejecting it as nimitic. And he explained clearly the nature of nimitic is temporary, circumstantial is described as temporary. It's come from a cause and it's going to just go back again. So then Lahari becomes very inspired by that talk of Vaishnava Das and comes to live very close to Vaishnava Das in the Kunja. And he sees a snake one evening. And then he comes in and he comments to Vaishnava Das, beware of the snake. And Vaishnava Das calls him into his kutia and takes the advantage of this to teach him fearlessness. Bhayam dvitiya biniveshitam syat isat uvatasya viparayo shmiti tan maya toyo buddha abjetang bhaktyai keksham guru devatama. That last line, Guru Devatama, when we take shelter of Guru, then we can become fearless. If we don't have Guru, then we're very fragile standing because we don't really have the plug into the parampara. If Guru is not there, if we haven't made and cemented that relationship with the Guru parampara through Guru, then we are in a fragile condition for sure. Because Krishna is watching and Krishna is seeing. Is he connecting to my Guru line? Oh yes, he's expressing different sentiments about devotion, but he's not honoring my devotee. He's not connecting somehow to this Guru Parampara. So how can I have faith in his sincerity? Krishna's a real person. He's not just wandering around in our dreamland kind of thing. He's listening to our sincere prayers and heart through many lifetimes. So now Vaishnava Das has explained that even if a snake is coming right next to him, then he'll never bite him unless that snake is sanctioned by the Lord. In other words, he's describing that everything is under Krishna's control. Totally, totally, totally. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matahar sarvam bharatante. Krishna is the supreme controller of the material worlds and the spiritual worlds. Everything is emanating from him. So he's settling Lahari Mahashai down. Now he's going to speak with him. But first, Lahari, I'm going to repeat the question that we went through on Saturday. Lahari Mahashai said with some faith, as a result of hearing your words, which are just befitting a sadhu, my heart has become free from all kinds of fear. Yes, sadhu sangha, nam kirtan, bhagavat shravana, murtiya sevya. What's that? Murti sevya, shraddha sevya. These 5 principal angas of bhakti. Now I have understood that one can obtain the highest benefit only when the heart becomes elevated. Many great souls who are engaged in the worship of Bhagavan live in mountain caves, and they are never afraid of wild animals that live there. Rather, out of fear of materialistic association, they have given up living with other human beings, and they are and they live among the wild animals instead. So this is the purpose of living secluded, that you live away from, like Gorkishore Das Babaji chose to live in a toilet, a latrine, because he preferred the stench from the toilet to the stench of the materialistic desires. So Babaji Mahashai said, when Bhakti Devi, the goddess of devotion, makes her appearance in a person's heart, that heart automatically becomes elevated. He then becomes dear to all jivas. Everyone, devotees and non-devotees alike, feel affection for the Vaishnavas, and that is why every human being should become a Vaishnava. We have the example of Prahlad Maharaj with his school friends. They were all so affectionately feeling towards him with such well-being, even though he was speaking words that were contrary to the teachers, but still he was, all of the boys loved him because he was a Vaishnava. Even though they were demons, they loved him. As soon as Lahari Mahashai heard this, he said, you have awakened my faith in Nitya-dharma. It seems to me that there is a close connection between Nitya-dharma and Vaisnava-dharma, but so far I have not been able to understand how they are identical. So even though Lahari Mahashai was spoken to previously in the previous chapter, he still has been influenced so deeply by his association of so-called Vaishnavas that he thought were Vaishnavas, various members of the Brahmin caste, etc. So he's becoming confused about that. He hasn't associated sufficiently long enough with Vaishnavas to see the absolute categorical distinction between the caste Brahmins or the practicing Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. He hasn't come to that place yet. Vaishnava Das Babaji replied, in this world there are 2 different dharmas that go by the name of Vaisnava-dharma. The first is Shuddha, pure Vaisnava-dharma, and the second is Vida, adulterated Vaisnava-dharma. Although Shuddha Vaisnava-dharma is one in principle, it has 4 divisions according to rasa, or taste for serving Bhagavan in a specific loving mood. Dasya, servitude; Sakya, friendship; Vatsalya, parental affection; and Madhurya, conjugal love. So again, he's somewhat repeating what he did in the previous chapter about, he was talking about the 4 varnas and ashrams in the previous chapter. So he's talking about these distinctions of rasa. Not everyone is the same. Not everyone is going to be thinking the same. In reality, Shuddha Vaishnava-dharma is one without a second, and it is known as Nitya-dharma or Paradharma, the supreme dharma. You can turn that off now. Nitya-dharma, the supreme dharma. In the Shruti Shastra, Mundaka Upanishad 113, we find the following statement: Yad vignate sarvam idam vignatam bhavati. Everything becomes known when one understands the supreme truth clearly. If you know the Lord, you know everything. And if you don't know the Lord, you actually don't know anything. Doesn't matter how erudite you are and academic and intelligent and everything. If you don't know who is behind, what is the power behind all the movements in existence, then your life is a failure, a complete failure. I'll read that again. Everything becomes known when one understands that supreme truth clearly. This statement pertains to Shuddha Vaishnava Dharma. The full import of this will gradually be revealed to you. There are two types of adulterated Vaishnava Dharma. One is adulterated with karma, karma vida, and the other with gyan, gyan vida. All the practices that the orthodox Brahmins, Smartas, uphold as Vaishnava Dharma is actually Vaishnava Dharma adulterated with karma. So this is why Vaishnava Das is explaining this, because he knows that Lahari has been associating with these different personalities. This type of Vaishnava Dharma entails initiation into a Vaishnava mantra, but Vishnu, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, is only treated as a constituent part of the process of karma. Vishnu is actually the superintendent of all the devatas, but in this system, he is regarded as being only an aspect of karma and subject to its own laws. In other words, they put Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh all in the same bracket. They don't consider that any one of them is the supreme controller, because ultimately they are seeking that Brahman place, that moksha place, that place beyond the personal, or not as far as the personal conception. They're seeking the impersonal conception. This is what they're doing. Here's, I'll just read that sentence again. Vishnu is actually the superintendent of all the devatas, but in this system, he is regarded as being only an aspect of karma and subject to its laws. This is what they imagine. Lahari Mahashaya is the same. He's imagining that Vishnu is just simply one of those principal personalities, but not the Supreme Lord. In other words, the conception is that karma is not subordinate to the will of Vishnu, but that Vishnu is subordinate to the will of karma. That's pretty intense. Vishnu is subordinate to the will of karma. This is what the Smarta Brahmin caste are generally thinking, because actually they think the Brahman is impersonal, so they can't give credence to Vishnu. You understand? According to this theory, all varieties of worship and spiritual practice, such as upasana, bhajan, and sadhana, are merely parts of karma, because there is no truth higher than karma, because karma gives results, and they want fruitive results. They want results. Sakam Bhakta. This type of Vaishnava Dharma is professed by the ancient Mimamsaka philosophers and has been prevalent for a very long time. Many people in India who adhere to this doctrine pride themselves on being Vaishnavas, but they do not care to accept pure Vaishnavas as Vaishnavas at all. This is their great misfortune. They think someone who is not particularly materially advanced, etc., or is just sitting somewhere very simply chanting, etc., they don't have great respect for that, because their respect is counted on objects and material acquisitions. That's what gives them credence. You know, it's like Modi. He's very impressed with ISKCON because they have many material assets, big temple, big samadhi, big grounds, lots of devotees, so he's impressed by that because he's actually on that karma platform. He's seeing from that vision. He's not looking so much further than that. But he will call himself a Vaishnava. And there are millions like this. They call themselves Vaishnavas. Like like the father and uncle of Raghunath Das. They're called Praya Vaishnavas. Govardhan Majumdar and Hiranya Majumdar. They were not pure Vaishnavas. It's described clearly in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yes, this is their great misfortune. Of course, it's their misfortune. Vaisnava-dharma, adulterated with jnana, is also widespread throughout India. According to this school of thought, the supreme truth is the incomprehensible, all-pervading Brahm. You see, the caste brahmanas are practicing karma yoga. We've just discussed this whole ladder from karma yoga to jnana yoga to bhakti yoga. So the caste Brahmins in this paragraph we've just read are concerned with acquisition in the material world. Either it can be nishkam, where they're giving something of their profit to the temple and the Lord, etc., or it can be just completely karma mishra, where nothing is going to the Lord. Basically, everything is they're making their own situation more wealthy, more opulent. And now we come to those mukshavaadis, those ones who want liberation. It's all in the same line. Vaishnava-dharma, adultery with jnana, is also widespread throughout India. According to this school of thought, the supreme truth is the incomprehensible, all-pervading Brahm. And in order to attain this nirvishesh, featureless Brahm, one should worship Surya, Ganesh, Shakti, Shiva, and Vishnu, who all possess forms. How strange. They possess forms, but they're looking for a place which doesn't have form. Doesn't make sense, really, does it? Think about it. They're worshipping Surya, they're worshipping Ganesh, who had forms, but they're worshipping them to achieve a place that doesn't have a form. When one's knowledge becomes complete, one can give up the worship of forms and ultimately attain the state of Nirvishesh Brahm. Many people accept this doctrine and disrespect the pure Vaishnavas. When followers of this Panchopashana system worship Vishnu, they perform Diksha, Puja, and all their activities for Vishnu. And they may also worship Radha Krishna. Still, it is not Shuddha Vaishnava-dharma. He's speaking to Hari Maharshai, who's come from this background. He's trying to dismantle his previous attachment to this karma Vaishnava-dharma, or impure, adulterated Vaishnava-dharma. The Shuddha Vaishnava-dharma that comes to light when one eliminates the adulterated forms is the true Vaishnava-dharma. Due to the influence of the age of Kali, most people cannot understand what pure Vaishnava-dharma is, and they therefore accept the various adulterated forms as true Vaishnava-dharma. We see this living here in this land of Bharatvash, this land of India. We see this all the time. There are so many respectable gentlemen and people, and they consider themselves to be Vaishnavas. They have a temple in their room. Perhaps their foodstuffs have been offering, but usually on their temple they have all kinds of other deities as well. They're worshipping Durga Ma. They have the Ganeshji is there. So their faith is Bahushaka. It's very spread out. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam, did I finish that?
Yes.
Yes. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam, human beings display three different tendencies with regard to the absolute truth. The tendency towards the all-pervading Brahm, Brahm Pravritti. The tendency towards the supreme Atma in the heart, known as Paramatma, Paramatma Pravritti. And the tendency towards the supreme person, Bhagavan, Bhagavat Pravritti. So 3 paths. By the Brahm Pravriti, some people acquire a taste for the indefinite, featureless, nirvishesh Brahm as the ultimate principle. The method they adopt in order to attain this indeterminate state is known as panchopashana. So more people are worshipping this way than are worshipping in the Gyan Kanda way. Everything is sectioned into these 3 sections. We have in the Bhagavatam, we describe, the karma chapters, the first 6, then we have the bhakti chapters, then the Gyan chapters. So these 3 distinctive areas, we need to be familiar with them. And when we meet people, then we should realize, if we realize where they are sitting in their attempts for transcendence, then we can preach to them appropriately. We can guide them sufficiently. We can guide them just like Vaishnava does. He's guiding Lahari Mahashaya here by explaining the whole map, so to speak. So when you see the whole ladder, the yoga ladder, then you can appreciate where you are on this yoga. Or more than that, you can appreciate where the goal is. The goal is bhakti. What is pure bhakti, Shuddha bhakti? By the Paramatma Pravritti, some people acquire a taste for that yoga principle, which establishes contact with the subtle form of Paramatma. The methods they adopt to try to attain the trance of absorption in Paramatma Samadhi are known as Karma Yoga and Astanga Yoga. Dhritarashtra was the same. Dhritarashtra didn't acknowledge Krishna in the Bhagavatam, in the Mahabharata. He didn't. He was blind physically and he was blind spiritually. He considered his sons to be his own. He was most attached to that. Even when Krishna was in front of him, he still wanted to allow Duryodhana to actually have conflict with Krishna. So there was no Sharanagati there. This doctrine holds that karma includes initiation into the chanting of Vishnu mantras, worship of Sri Vishnu, meditation, and other such practices. Vaisnava-dharma, adulterated with karma, is present in this system. So Lahari Mahashaya has been through all these processes. He's had a guru and he's had Vishnu mantras. He's worshipping like this. This is why Vaishnava Das is speaking to him in this way. By the Bhagavat Pravriti, fortunate Pravriti means tendency. Pravriti, path, tendency. By the Bhagavat Pravriti, fortunate jivas acquire a taste for the bhakti principle, which seeks to obtain service to the pure personal form of Bhagavan, Savishesh Bhagavat Swarup, who possesses all qualities and attributes. Their activities, such as worshipping Bhagavan, are not parts of karma or gyan, but are components of Shuddha Bhakti, pure Bhakti. The Vaisnava-dharma that conforms to this principle is Shuddha Vaisnava-dharma. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedanti tat tattva vidas tattvam, yajnanam advayam, brahmati paramatmati bhagavan iti shabhyate. This is such an important verse. When I first came in to my Gurudev in 94, first thing he asked me, do I know this verse? It was the very first thing he asked me. With this verse, he explained, you can defeat all Mayavads everywhere. And you can defeat the Mayavad in yourself. If you're having the tendency to try to enjoy something in matter, you can see clearly the map from these 3 distinctive persons. The Brahmavad, the yogi, Paramatma, and that Bhakta. So all 3 paths are very distinct there. Those who know absolute reality describe that ultimate non-dual substance as the supreme truth. Some know this same Advaya Gyan Paratattva by the name of Brahm, some by the name of Paramatma, and others by the name of Bhagavan. We understand, I think, sufficiently about Brahm, the impersonal nature, but we also should understand about Paramatma. Can you just look in that bookshelf there and you'll see my Bhagavad Gita on the lowest shelf? Gurudev's, yes. But my Gurudev has said very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, and I want you all to hear this, the supersoul is not eternal. So it's very important to appreciate this, because when we're not so advanced, we consider, oh yes, Paramatma is an eternal part of Krishna. When the Mahapralaya happens and the inundation and Lord Brahma's life ceases, where does Supersoul go? Supersoul goes back into, that's Kshirodakshay Vishnu, will go back into Garbhodakshay Vishnu, who will go back into Mahavishnu. So where is Kshirodakshay Vishnu at that point? It's saying here very clearly, if you have a copy of my Gurudev's Bhagavad Gita, it's in verse 4 of chapter 7, and it's halfway down the Sa'artha Varshini Prakashika Vritti. And it's saying clearly, Paramatma is specifically related to the temporary material world and does not have an eternal Swarup. So he's saying that very clearly. So we should appreciate this path of seeking Paramatma realization. It's what the yogis seek. And the destination there is Siddhaloka, which is not out of the Viraja river entirely. It's the very bottom part of the spiritual realm. And it's a high part in the material realm, but it's still not completely out. So this is Paramatma realization. Because we're seeing the supersoul equal in every single person. So it's something impersonal. It's not about a personal form. It's what are Paramatma's pastimes? Who is his mother and father? Where was he born? Where does he even live besides the hearts of all conditioned souls? So there's no lila about Paramatma. So we should appreciate that. Some know this same Advaya Gyan Paratattva by the name of Brahm, and some by the name of Paramatma, and others by the name of Bhagavan. Bhagavat Tattva is the supreme Tattva, and is the basis of both Brahm and Paramatma. Yes, this Bhagavan is full, complete. It is this personal conception of the truth, Bhagavat Tattva, that is the pure conception of Sri Vishnu. This is the pure conception of Sri Vishnu. The jivas who pursue this principle are pure jivas, and their inclination is called bhakti. Devotion for Sri Hari, Hari Bhakti, is celebrated by the names Shuddha Vaisnava-dharma, Nitya-dharma, Jaiva Dharma, the constitutional function of the jivas, Bhagavat-dharma, the religion of worshipping the Supreme Person, Paramartha-dharma, the religion that strives for the ultimate benefit, and Paradharma, the supreme function. So all these different names for Sanatan Dharma, for Nitya-dharma, this is all our path very clearly. I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur is overflowing with mercy, giving us this chapter and these direct. It's so crystal clear, the different gradations, and we can so easily fall into one of those if we don't get association. If we didn't have from birth, say, an association of a Shuddha Vaishnava like Larima Shai, you're naturally going to become influenced by those who call themselves Vaishnavas. They are calling themselves Vaishnavas because they have Vishnu on the altar. They're worshippers of Vishnu, but their intention and their goal is not to perform personal seva. Their intention and their goal is to achieve the Brahman, Nirvishesh Brahman. Or, if they're yogis practicing, it's Paramatma. The jivas who pursue this principle are pure jivas, and their inclination is called bhakti. Devotion to, I just read all that. All types of dharma that arise from the tendencies towards Brahm and Paramatma are naimitic and not nitya. Okay, it's very clear. The cultivation of Nirvishesh Brahm is motivated by a material purpose, nimitta, and is therefore naimittika, not nitya. When a jiva is anxious to gain release from his bondage to matter, his state of imprisonment becomes the nimitta, cause, that impels him to adopt the nimitic dharma of striving for the state in which all material qualities are extinguished. That's like the tapasvi, or that very strict yogi. He's just trying to restrict. But understand one thing, just by saying what is not spiritual doesn't give us access into what is spiritual. You can't connect with transcendence just by negating material. By negating the material aspect is not going to give us transcendence. It's just going to give us some type of yogic, voidist, sunyavad experience by saying what is not, what is like neti, they say. It's not this, it's not this. But how can you connect with, you cannot connect with transcendence ever unless there is a transcendental object to connect with. We are transcendental internally, but we can't, it's like we have the potential for fire within us. But that fire can never ever be ignited until another piece of wood that's on fire already comes and touches it. The pure devotee who is going to ignite our transcendence. How could it be otherwise? There has to be the transcendental connection. It doesn't matter how advanced you are in gyan, or bautic gyan even, material knowledge. It doesn't make any difference how much we can study the Shastra, but if you don't have connection to a transcendental person, you're not going to catch the message clearly. It's going to be impossible. Absolutely impossible. Coming from material, you can't make something spiritual. It has to have the catalyst of that spiritual object, that spiritual entity, to ignite the transcendental potential within the jiva. Must be. The cultivation of Nirvishesh Brahm is motivated by a material purpose. Oh, I just read that. Sorry. This striving is said to be nimitic because it is motivated by a nimitta, material cause, namely the state of material bondage. Yes, I'm motivated by my suffering. I'm just trying to stop suffering. Just by the attempt to stop my suffering is not going to benedict me with transcendence. It'll benedict me ultimately with liberation into the impersonal. Even a child can take up this process. Even a very young, inexperienced person can take up the process of bhakti. Like we read about the beautiful Raghunandan, the son of Mukunda, Mukunda Shekhar, when his father asked him to do the offering and Krishna wasn't coming off the altar. So he started to weep very impetuously, calling, well, don't I know the mantras sufficiently? You're not coming? His nishtha, his faith in the Supreme Lord was absolute. That person. So then Krishna appeared and took. Therefore, the dharma of striving to attain Brahm is not eternal. That striving to attain Brahm is like Paramatma feature we've just read in Bhagavad Gita. It's not eternal. Paramatma realization itself is not eternal. You can read it. It's saying the same thing in Prabhupada's Gita. In Prabhupada's Gita also says the same thing. The jivas who adopt the dharma of seeking Paramatma with a desire for the happiness of samadhi, that's their principal focus, is samadhi for me, my pleasure, take shelter of nimitic dharma, motivated by the impetus for subtle material pleasure. This is subtle. It's the mind, intelligence, false ego, the subtle aspect. Therefore, Paramatma Dham is also not eternal, saying the same thing as Bhagavad Gita. Only unalloyed Bhagavad Dharma is eternal. We have to be clear on this. Solid, rock solid. Because Supersoul can sometimes intimate to individuals if they're particularly, if their sanskars are pure, they can connect with Supersoul, and Supersoul can give you directions and so on. But that Supersoul himself is not eternal. On hearing all this, Lahari Mahashai said, "O Mahashai, kindly instruct me on Shuddha Vaisnava-dharma. I am taking shelter at your lotus feet in my. Please accept me. I have heard that if one has previously accepted Diksha and Shiksha from an unqualified guru, he should be initiated and receive instructions again when he meets a genuine guru. I have been hearing your pure instructions for several days, and my faith in Vaishnava-dharma has been awakened. Please first instruct me about Vaishnava-dharma, and then sanctify me by giving me initiation." So this is quite a significant point. This means all of Vaishnava Das's instructions are landing in a sincere heart. And Lahari Mahashai is sincere. Taking initiation is a sincere step. We said yes on Monday, Saturday, to accept the authority of a spiritual master and submission to his every directive is the success of life. Tadvidi pranipatena pranipashena sevaya upadekshayanti jnanam jnaninas tadvadarshanaha. All the way through saying same thing. This is why it's very reinforcing to hear these truths coming from the Jaiva Dharma, because we can learn to take all the different scriptures and see where, hear what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving. He's giving us all the scriptures here. It's not just singular. He's giving us all Srimad Bhagavatam, all Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads also. Everything is here. Babaji Mahashai. Now you see, we're referring to Vaishnava Das as Babaji Mahashai. Previously he was Vaishnava Das, then he became Babaji, now he's Babaji Mahashai. So there's a growth here, there's a dynamic. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is creating this direct dynamic here. Babaji Mahashai became slightly ill at ease and replied, "O Mahashai, I will certainly instruct you as far as I am able, but I am not fit to be a Diksha Guru. Nonetheless, you may now take instructions on Shuddha Vaishnava Dharma." So this is the pure heart of Babaji Mahashai. Just like Premdas Babaji was not looking to take control, so to speak, of Sannyasi Thakur when he first arrived. He wasn't willing to do that. And so this requires, relationship requires effort and time from the two involved. Lahari has to make more of an overture to make this connection fully. You understand? He's not just going to pass it out like candy, more or less. It shouldn't be that way. That's not the path at all. The path is actually to develop a real relationship with that person that you're going to aspire to be submissive to. It's a process, because it has to come from one heart to the other heart. The transcendence is in the heart of the Mahabhagavat, and he is going to transfer it to the heart of the Shishya. So a relationship, I often give the example of a child who's been receiving pocket money from his father, and he goes and buys his father a nice sweater for winter time. So he comes and presents his father with the sweater. So his father's heart melts in affection that his son has taken such sacrifice and not gone out and spent the money on just other things, but he spent it on him. So the father's heart is very soft toward, and in that soft, then the father can transfer deep affection for the child. Their relationship become very deeply cemented in an act like that. So in the sense of serving Guru, when you serve Guru very diligently and you give up your own desires, but you just focus on the pleasure of Guru, which is the same as focusing on the pleasure of Krishna. It's non-different, but it becomes accessible through Guru. This is why this dynamic is arranged in this way. We can't see Krishna. We can see him on the altar in his deity form, but how can we understand that without the teachings of the realized soul to explain to us the nature of this spiritual relationship? And that can't happen unless the Guru is fully realized. Nevertheless, you may now take instruction on Shuddha Vaisnava-dharma. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the original Guru of the entire world, has explained that there are three fundamental principles in Vaisnava-dharma. Okay, we've just come to our hour now. I'll just read this paragraph and then we'll stop. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the original Guru of the entire world, has explained that there are three fundamental principles in Vaisnava-dharma. Sambandha Tattva, knowledge of one's relationship with Bhagavan; Abhideya Tattva, the means by which the ultimate goal is achieved; and Prayojan Tattva, the ultimate goal of Krishna Prem. A Shuddha Vaishnava, or Shuddha Bhakta, is one who knows these three principles and acts in accordance with them. So now we've come out of the topic of Gyan and Karma, because Lahari Mahashai has expressed his sincere desire to be completely submissive to Vaishnava Das. He's expressed that. He's surrendered. He's offered his mood of Sharanagat. So now pure Vaishnava principles are going to be explained. What is Sambandha Gyan? What is Abhideya? And what is Prayojan Tattva? So these are paramount to understanding what is Vaishnava Dharma. So this much we've understood today, that karma and gyan are naimittic and to be rejected. And the reason that these were in the heart of Lahari Mahashai is because of his previous association. So this association now has categorically changed, and he's just with the Vaishnavas, and he's surrendering his whole life to the Vaishnavas. So now pure knowledge, Shuddha Gyan, Shuddha Bhakti, can actually be given to him within his heart. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Vaishnava-dharma ki jai, Jaiva Dharma ki jai. Jaiva Dharma is the same as Vaishnava-dharma. So very, very beautiful. Very simple, very clear. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is just making it just very smooth, not difficult for us to understand. These are actually intricate topics, and they can be spoken in a very sort of convoluting way, so to speak, through, different descriptions. But in the essence of them, it's very, very simple. We're getting the whole thread because we're hearing it again and again and again and again. We heard it in the first chapter. We heard it in the second chapter. We heard it in the third chapter. Now we're hearing it again in the fourth chapter. We need this repetition from different perspectives to really catch it. Because the intellect, the mind, has to be satisfied to go forward fast. Jaiva Dharma ki jai. Gold Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So, page 58, 59. So, I'll just read a little bit back to get us in context. So, we were talking yesterday about Paramatma, realization, as being naimittic, temporary, and along with the realization of Brahm also being inferior to the realization of Bhagavan. Vedanti tat tattva vedas tattvam yajnanam advayam. Brahmati paramatmati Bhagavan iti shavyate. This is a very important verse. So I'm going to read two paragraphs back just to get into it. The jivas who adopt the dharma of seeking Paramatma with a desire for the happiness of samadhi take shelter of naimittic dharma motivated by the impetus for subtle material pleasure. Subtle pleasure means pleasure for the mind, pleasure for the intelligence. It's a spiritual or a mystical experience, and there's pleasure in that, of course. So, but it's material, it's temporary pleasure because it's not connecting with the Supreme. It's not fulfilling the soul's innate desire for service and relationship with Krishna. Therefore, Paramatma Dham is also not eternal. Only unalloyed Bhagavat Dharma is eternal. On hearing all this, Lahari Mahashai said, O Mahashai, kindly instruct me on Shuddha Vaishnava Dharma. I am taking shelter at your lotus feet in my old age. Please accept me. I have heard that if one has previously accepted Diksha and Shiksha from an unqualified guru, he should be initiated and receive instructions again when he meets a genuine guru. So presumably he's talking about his own case. He would have had a family guru for sure, but now he's understanding the level of that family guru. He's understanding the level of what? He's understanding the level of karma yoga and Gyan yoga and now Vaishnavism or Nitya-dharma, Nitya-prem. He's understanding these three distinctions. This is what we've been elaborating on from the very beginning. These three paths. And the most important thing to appreciate that they're all connected. They're all one. They're a ladder that leads to bhakti. But we shouldn't separate them. Those who separate them and claim that they're doing their service as Vaishnavas, we were describing yesterday, just worshipping Vishnu on the altar, but without that proper unattached purification and without the guidance of a pure Rasik Vaishnava, then they are not really pure Vaishnavas. They like a karmi. They're practicing karma. And then the Gyanis, who are focusing on Paramatma, we've already discussed. He should be initiated and receive instructions again when he meets a genuine guru. I have been hearing your pure instructions for several days, and my faith in Vaisnava-dharma has been awakened. Please first instruct me about Vaisnava-dharma and then sanctify me by giving me initiation. Yes, we read this yesterday. Babaji Mahashai became slightly ill at ease and replied, O Mahashai, I will certainly instruct you as far as I am able, but I am not fit to be a Diksha Guru. Nevertheless, you may now take instructions on Shuddha Vaishnava Dharma. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the original Guru of the entire world, has explained that there are three fundamental principles in Vaishnava Dharma. Sambandha Tattva, knowledge of one's relationship with Bhagavan; Abhidaya Tattva, the means by which the ultimate goal is achieved; and Prayojan Tattva, the ultimate goal of Krishna Prem. So three distinct aspects or stages: Sambandha Gyan, Abhidaya, and Prayojan. And ultimately, again, they are all one. And the three acharyas for Sambandha Gyan is Sanatan Goswami. For Abhidaya Gyan is Rupa Goswami. And the Prayojan is Raghunath Das Goswami. Then the three deities, Madan Mohan represents Sambandha, and then Radha Govinda is Abhidaya, and then Radha Gopinath is the Prayojan. The first principle, Sambandha Tattva, includes three separate topics. The first topic is the material world, Jad Jagat, or the fundamental truth regarding the potency that creates bewilderment, Mayik Tattva. There's a beautiful verse, Rite ritam yat pratiyata na pratiyata na katmani, tad vidyat atmayo mayam, yato basho yata namaha, tamaha. This is the second verse in the Chatushloki, and Krishna is saying that anything in this world that is not connected with me is without value and is ignorance. So Maya is like that. Maya is all those objects or thoughts or situations that are not connected with Krishna directly, even though they are ultimately, because everything is originating from Krishna. But if they're not, they don't have the direct connection with Krishna, then they are tamagun, ignorance. So this is what most of the world is fallen under, this spell of Maya. The second topic is the living beings, jivas, or the fundamental truth regarding the predominated entities, adina tattva. And the third topic is Bhagavan, or the fundamental truth regarding the predominating entity, Prabhu Tattva. So we had this in the very first chapter. Three Vastus. He's just described the three Vastus: Maya, Jiva, and Bhagavan. So catch the link. It's a different vocabulary to Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's the same principles. Bhagavan is one without a second and endowed with all potencies. He is all attractive and the exclusive abode of opulence and sweetness, and is the sole shelter of all jivas. Although he is the only shelter of Maya and all the jivas, still he is aloof and independent and exists in his own supreme independent form, which is uncommonly beautiful. Krishna, all attractive. The whole worlds are attracted to Krishna. The effulgence of his limbs radiates to a great distance, manifesting as the Nirvishesh Brahm. Through his divine potency, known as Aisha Shakti, he manifests the jivas and the material world, and then enters into that world as Paramatma, who is his partial expansion. This is the fundamental truth concerning Ishvara, the supreme controller, or Paramatma, the indwelling supersoul. So this is covering the description of Bhagavan.
Here it is said that Paramatma Jnana is Naimitik.
Yes, we discussed this yesterday.
But sadhak, his first step is to understand Paramatma.
No. To understand where Paramatma is ontologically, but not to have realization of Paramatma. If you have realization of Paramatma, you will never want to leave that state of consciousness, ever. I told you that example.
But Krishna says that we are Jiva, and with the Jiva, I'm always there.
Yes.
In Bhagavad Gita. So how do we reconcile this?
Krishna is always there when we are aware of our service to him. But if we want to exploit that part of Krishna within us for our own taste and our own happiness in Paramatma realization, we've just described it as like a mystical place of for the consciousness to be in that it's like it's further than the Brahman because there's some object, Paramatma, but it's not direct. What service do those devotees do to Paramatma when they have realized Paramatma? They're not doing any service, so they're not connecting transcendentally. Jivera Surubhoi Krishna Nitya-das. So they're not performing service. So when we read in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is residing in the heart, he's residing in the heart when the heart is cultivated towards complete service to him. Then the connection will happen through service. That's what Bhagavad Gita is recommending, especially in the middle 6 chapters on the Bhakti Yoga section. Clear?
Yeah.
Very clear? Okay. In the Vaikuntha region of the spiritual sky, beyond this material universe, he manifests as Narayan, his feature of supreme opulence and majesty. In Goloka Vrindavan, which is beyond Vaikuntha, he manifests as Gopi Jana Vallabha, Sri Krishna Chandra. So this is very wonderful that straight away Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving us this distinction between the different goals, the different forms of upasana, the different forms of worship. If we worship Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha, it is quite distinct from that worship of Brajendranandan Shamsundar in Goloka Vrindavan, completely distinct. We've discussed many times that the difference in rasas. In Vaikuntha, there are 2.5 rasas. And in Braja Vrindavan, there are 12 rasas. So this variety of taste is much more extensive and much sweeter. But most are aspiring for that Vaikuntha because simply they don't have education of Goloka, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not advented until 500 odd years ago. Before the advent of Mahaprabhu, who would know about Krishna in Vrindavan? When Krishna was in Vrindavan on the planet, no one understood his identity. Krishna was just relishing his pastimes in Vrindavan. But we've mentioned many times in chapter 8 of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, Queen Kunti, she becomes bewildered when she thinks that Mother Yashoda captured and bound Krishna. How can she bind the Supreme Personality of Godhead? They can't conceive beyond that. So understand that state of consciousness and understand the blessings of the gift from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to appreciate what is Braja Prem, what is Braja Ras, what is Bhakti Ras. It's so distinct from what was actually propagated previously. It's such a powerful gift that Mahaprabhu was. When we realize how powerful a gift it was coming from Mahaprabhu, then our attention will automatically turn towards Mahaprabhu and his teachings carefully. And then we will understand why he manifested Prem Ras, Niryase, Koritesh. He's manifested to taste Prem. So what is that Prem? Unnata Ujvala Ras. That's the Prem that he wants to actually taste and experience. That taste of Sri Radhika. Sri Radhika's glories were practically unknown previous to Mahaprabhu, even after Mahaprabhu. We know in Jaipur, when the king wanted to put Radharani beside Krishna, Govinda, yes, then Baladev Vidyabhushan had to come and write his Govinda Bhasya to give the proper praman to all those pundits and the yes, and the Ramanujas, etc. Parakya is so confidential, but yet we are given entrance into that solely by the mercy of Mahaprabhu. This is totally remarkable. So we should take advantage of this. We must take advantage of this. If we neglect that and still go for the Aishwarya Bhav, then that's a great misfortune for us. But we should think with great gratitude that we have this immense opportunity to experience this Svabhakti Shriyam, this service to Unnata Ujjvala Ras, specifically in Manjari Bhav. This is specifically what Mahaprabhu has come to give. So there's a cultivation for that. The cultivation is hearing about Vrindavan pastimes. That's the cultivation of it. Hearing about the pastimes. Also, of course, we need the platform solidly of Atma Tattva, of Gyan, Krishna Tattva must be there. If that is not there, then everything is shaky and flaky. So we must have that solidly there. But then be looking in the Madhyam platform, at least, towards Brajadam, towards Goloka Vrindavan. Go to those places. Go to Radhakund. Go to Giriraj Govardhan. Go to Varshana. Go to these places and remember the pastimes that took place there. Go to Vrindavan, all of Braj, and remember all of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, especially, of course, his pastimes with the gopis. It's the gopis that we are following. We are in their line, their anugatya. We're following Gopi Bharatu Kamale. We're following the gopis. This is Rupa Goswami's teachings. All of this is the gift of Mahaprabhu. So prior to Mahaprabhu, that was vacant. That wasn't there. We had Sankaracharya, we had the four Sampradayas, etc. We had the Alvas, we had Lord Buddha come after Krishna. So we had all these different steps actually intended all the way to come to Mahaprabhu. If we look at the history coming from the Alvas, then Lord Buddha, and then we see the four Sampradayas, ultimately there's a thread that is purifying this Aishwarya misconception, and Mahaprabhu will come and purify the whole line. So we should take great interest in these topics. His feature of supreme sweetness. His various types of expansions, such as identical manifestations, prakash, and pastimes forms, vilas, are eternal and unlimited. Nothing and no one is equal to him. What to speak of being superior to him? So this is Brajendranandan Shamsundar and also Lord Narayan. So we're so fortunate today because this truth is so readily and easily available. We have all the books translated. We have every opportunity has been given to the jiva in this dark age of Kali. Everything is there. If we carefully, regularly vibrate this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it'll give us a presence of consciousness to see what is the focus, what is the goal. Clearly, we have to see that essence, that bhakti sa, constantly. His identical manifestations and pastimes forms, Prakash and Vilas, are manifested by his superior potency, known as Parashakti. That Parashakti is ultimately Radhika. This Parashakti displays its prowess, Vikram, in many different features, out of which only 3 are known to the jivas. The first is the internal potency, Chidvikram, which arranges Sri Hari's transcendental pastimes and everything related to them. The second is the marginal potency, Jiva Vikram, or Tatastha Vikram, which manifests and sustains innumerable jivas. The third is the potency that creates bewilderment, Maya Vikram, which creates material time, material activities, and all the insubstantial objects of this world. Surely when we read that last sentence, it gives us inspiration to just reject all that is nimitic, all that is temporary. Just that alone itself, when we read it clearly like that and we understand its place, then we can just quickly reject it. This is what analyzing all these truths will do to help us to know categorically what to embrace and what to reject. So 3 types of energy. There is, first of all, there is the Shakti Tattva. This Vikram is the Parashakti. And then the 3 types of energy. The Chid, that's the ultimate spiritual potency coming from Krishna, pure, transcendental. Then there's the Jiva, and then there's Maya. So these 3 principal energies. This is all discussed very much in the 14th chapter, especially towards the end of the 14th chapter. It's opened out very, very clearly. We've actually already discussed that previously. Sambandha Tattva comprises Ishvara's relationship with the jivas, the relationship of the jivas and of matter with Ishvara, and the relationship of Ishvara and of the jivas with matter. So we have these 3 vastus, and what is their interrelationships with each other. This is very important to appreciate. What is the jiva's relationship with matter? He's not matter. Matter is inferior. If he becomes attracted to the inferior nature, then he's going to neglect the superior nature. You can't do both at the same time. It can only be one focus to be successful. If you try to mix the Mayic attraction with your attraction to Krishna, it'll become bewildering for you. All the time will be oscillating between the 2 poles of Antaranga Shakti and Bahiranga Shakti. This is the nature of the Tatastha energy. It oscillates between these 2. One who understands this Sambandha Tattva completely is situated in Sambandha Gyan, and one who does not have Sambandha Gyan cannot become a pure Vaishnava by any means. If he doesn't understand what is his ultimate relationship with Krishna, this Sambandha Gyan, then he can't progress. He can't come to that point of connection with the Lord. Connection with the Lord in Bhakti Yoga, it means with seva. We have this Tadvidi Pranipatena, Pranipasevaya. This seva must be there to connect. This sambandha. Lahari Mahashai said, I have heard from some Vaishnavas that one is a real Vaishnava only if he experiences the path of devotion through bhav, emotions. So there is no need for knowledge. How much truth is there in this statement? This is a very important question. Very important question. Up until now, I have simply tried to evoke emotions through the singing of Harinam Sankirtan. I have not made any attempt to understand Sambandha Gyan. So of course there's going to be some evocative experience by chanting and kirtan and so on. But if you don't understand the principle of the relationship and who is Krishna and where is Krishna and who is the jiva and where is the jiva, if we don't understand the main aspects of that in its analytical description, then it's going to be impossible to genuinely connect with the Lord. We'll read on. Babaji said, the highest fruit of attainment for the Vaishnavas is the development of bhav, the first sprout of prem. What's that? Shuddha Sattva, Visheshatma, Prem, Suryavam, Samyabhak, Mruchibish, Shitav, Mishnu, Shud Ashu, Bhav, Uchyate. That this Bhav is the ray of the sun of Prem. This is what this description is from Rupa Goswami. However, that state of Bhav must be pure. Those who think that the highest goal is to merge their identity into the non-differentiated Brahm practice inducing emotions while engaged in spiritual discipline to attain this goal. Wow, that's so powerful. We try to attain that Brahm by this emotional connection rather than the submissive service mood. If the object of our service is not absolutely crystal clear, how can our service be pure? If our underlying objective is to experience emotion for me, if I want to be happy, if I want to be more intoxicated with bliss, it's focusing on me. It's not focusing on the object of, it's not service at all. It's service to self. It's selfish completely. It's very clear, isn't it? Those who think that the highest goal is to merge their identity into the non-differentiated Brahm practice inducing emotions while engaged in spiritual discipline to attain this goal. However, their emotions and their endeavors are not Shuddha Bhav. They are merely an imitation because we haven't realized the transcendental object. We haven't woken up to that. If you serve your transcendental spiritual master, he is that transcendental object. And by that diligent service and careful service, and the spiritual master will understand what is needed for the Shishya. What service should he do to purify his vision and connection to the transcendental object? And this is why we must be guided. Because otherwise, just like Lahari Mahashai, he'll be guided by his sentiments and emotions. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to find a place of bliss. Everyone is searching for that. The whole world is searching for bliss. Everything is running on this, but they're all searching for material bliss. And this conception that Lahari Mahashai is bringing out is exactly the same. It's a bit more subtle, but it's still the same end of a selfish taste rather than the service mood. Even a single drop of Shuddha Bhav can fulfill the highest aspiration of the jiva, but the display of emotions by those who are polluted by the gyan that is aimed at attaining Nirvishesh Brahm is a great calamity for the jivas, because that's ultimately what it's aimed at. It's impersonal. It can be personal when there's a subject and an object, when there's the jiva and his transcendental reality and that transcendental object, and that jiva can be woken up by the mercy of Guru. Only by the mercy of Guru, because Guru is transcendental. The jiva cannot wake himself up alone, because it's just going to be speculative or imaginary. He cannot possibly, by material words, etc. There has to be the transcendental object that is giving mercy to bring that jiva's consciousness to a higher appreciation of what is the reality. Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, describes many, many aspects of transcendence, but we can't really connect with any of them until we have Guru's mercy, because all the subject matters in Srimad Bhagavatam are perfect and they're all relating to Krishna directly. But unless we have the personality to introduce us to Krishna, then none of it is going to be realized. It's still going to be hovering on the astral or the subtle platform. It's not going to be in transcendence. It's simply not. The devotional sentiments of people who feel that they are one with Brahm are merely a cheating display. Therefore, Sambandha Gyan is absolutely essential for pure devotees. Sambandha Gyan means relationship with Krishna, not relationships with Brahm. That Brahm is an impersonal aspect of Krishna. What are the qualities in Brahm? Remember?
Jnana and Vairagya.
Gyan and Vairagya. Yes, knowledge and renunciation. Krishna has 6 qualities. Beauty is the first. And then there's fame, wealth, and opulence. Or opulence, strength. Strength. These 4 are direct qualities, but then these other 2 are considered attributes of quality. They're not qualities directly. So Gyan you can find in a library, you can find in books. It's impersonal by itself. And renunciation is a negative aspect. It's not positive. Giving up. But that's not about attaining. We said yesterday that just neti, just to give up, doesn't give us transcendence. Understand? The words are quite simple to appreciate. It's not complicated. But we have to examine our own hearts and our own desires to really determine if I'm on track or not. Guru will indicate this. But I also have to be aware of what are Guru's indications. This means my sincerity. If my sincerity is not there, then I will look for excuses to just cultivate my own selfish emotions and neglect the direct indications of Guru. I look for my own happiness in a solitary place, just somewhere where I can evoke emotional sentiments towards Vrindavan or towards Goradam. But unless it's being guided clearly by Guru, we won't have any auspicious fruit, ultimately. Lahari Maharshai then inquired with faith, is there any truth higher than Brahm? So why is he asking that question after he's heard the whole chapter 3 and he's heard so much teaching already? He's still unsure because he doesn't know transcendence yet. He hasn't made that complete connection with Guru to open up the world of Vrindavan. Is there any truth higher than Brahm? If Bhagavan is the origin of Brahm, why don't the Gyanis give up their pursuit of Brahm and engage in the worship of Bhagavan? Okay, beautiful question. Babaji Maharshai smiled mildly and said, Brahma, the 4 Kumaras, Shuka, Narad, and Mahadev, the chief of the celestials, have all ultimately taken shelter of the lotus feet of Bhagavan. Lahari Maharshai then raised a doubt. Bhagavan has a form. Since form is limited by spatial considerations, how can Bhagavan be the resting place of the limitless and all-pervading Brahm? Very important question. He's saying that because you give Krishna credence as being a personality, then you've limited him due to the nature of his form. A form has some limitations to it. It's not all pervasive. It's a form. This is his question. Whereas the Brahman is understood to be limitless, without end. But you suddenly put it down to a person, then there's limitations on it. Babaji Maharaj resolved his doubt, saying, in the material world, the entity known as the sky is also limitless. Why should Brahm be considered to be more important merely because it is limitless? Bhagavan is also limitless by virtue of the potency manifested from the effulgence of his limbs. At the same time, he possesses his own transcendental form. Can any other entity compare with this? It is because of this unparalleled nature that Bhagavan is superior to the principles of Brahm. This is exactly why I've been saying consistently that we have to actually pray to have the attraction for Leela. because Leela immediately gives us the object of Krishna and his pastimes. It immediately starts to reinforce the personality conception. When the personality, the beauty of the personality, eclipses the idea of this impersonal Brahm, then we will be safe from that impersonal attraction. If we don't have attraction ultimately for Krishna and his kingdom of Vrindavan, then we will be attracted to the Nirvishesh Brahm. It'll seem like exciting, it'll seem like um, mystically fulfilling, etc. But if we have an attraction for Krishna directly in service to him, and Brajendra Nandan Sham Sundar Krishna, not Dwarkadish or Parthasarthi. So these understandings must be there. His transcendental form is supremely attractive, and that self-same form is fully and completely all-pervasive, omniscient, omnipotent, unlimitedly merciful, and supremely blissful. Which is superior? A form such as this, which is endowed with all qualities, that's Krishna, or an obscure, all-pervading existence which is devoid of qualities and potencies? What are the qualities of the Brahm? We've just said, Gyan and Vairagya. These are the qualities, and they're not even qualities, they're attributes of qualities. I've just said you can find knowledge in a library. Someone can be very knowledgeable. That doesn't give you a connection with transcendence. And renunciation, that's not going to give you bliss. That'll just make you like a yogi. A yogi, they perform all these various rigorous forms of vairagya, tapas, and they actually stand back from the material world, but it's not in connection with Krishna. So that Sambandha Gyan hasn't been understood by the yogis because they don't know the object. Without the object, then it's fruitless. The impersonal and personal features both exist simultaneously and in perfect harmony in Bhagavan. So we can continue this discussion. Oh, we got a few minutes. We'll read another paragraph. Brahm is only one aspect of Bhagavan. Those whose spiritual intelligence is limited are attracted to the feature of the Supreme that is devoid of qualities and is formless, immutable, unknowable, and immeasurable. How many people do we know of this nature? How much do we have that aspiration? How much are we personally? Don't be looking to other people, look within ourselves and try and understand, does this truth apply to me? Is there a part of me that doesn't want the Supreme Lord because it involves a direct personal relationship and that becomes fearful to me? Consider that, because that indicates a lot of energy is going to be taken up in any sort of relationship. It's a personal relationship. It requires effort. Any sort of relationship will require effort. But it seems like it's effortless just to merge into the Brahman, like to go to sleep, basically, to be covered by tamagun. Isn't it? You have to think about these things. Those whose spiritual intelligence is limited are attracted to the feature of the Supreme that is devoid of qualities and is formless, immutable, unknowable, and immeasurable. But those who are all-seeing, Sarvadarshi, have no attraction for anything other than the complete absolute truth. The complete absolute truth is so astonishing, is so attractive, billions and trillions of times more astonishing and beautiful and superior to this all-pervasive Brahm. But we're talking about subtle desires here. It's not just direct. Don't be thinking, well, I'm not a yogi. I don't sit looking for the Brahman. But subtly, perhaps I don't want that close relationship with Krishna, especially if I don't have nishta with my guru. But those who are all-seeing Sarvadarshi have no attraction for anything other than the complete absolute truth. Vaishnavas have no significant faith in Sri Hari's formless, impersonal feature, for it is opposed to their eternal function and unalloyed prem. Bhagavan Sri Krishna Chandra is the basis of both the personal and impersonal features. He is an ocean of supreme transcendental bliss, and he attracts all pure jivas. Bhagavan is both. We have that particle of transcendence. It's not easy to navigate there. It's quite simple in one sense to come out of the material attraction, but then it's another consideration altogether. Where are you going to place your focus? Is it going to be on the formless now that you've left the material attraction behind? Are we going to look for some mystic yogic satisfaction of the senses in Shantaras? Everything peaceful, beautiful, no trouble, no lamentation, no Brahmabhuta Prasanatmana associated, everything really nice? Or are we going to take shelter of the vigorous, active path? Love is a verb. To love. There's activity there. Activity towards service to the Supreme, service in his temples, service to his literatures, service to Harinam, service to the Vaishnavas, service to the Dham. All of these opportunities for seva are there. And if that ingredient seems to be cumbersome for the jiva, and he would prefer just to sit in a sort of chant Hare Krishna and become sort of satisfied with a Brahman type conception, and many do. That's unfortunately not the supreme goal that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to unpack here. So now we'll go to Lahari's next question tomorrow. How can Sri Krishna's form be eternal since he takes birth, performs activities, and gives up his body? So we'll discuss that tomorrow. Very interesting. Very, very beautiful. Jaiva Dharma ki jai. So powerful. Powerful truths to appreciate. Okay, coming to our chapter 4. I've got page 63. So we were describing yesterday, he described the Sambandha Tattva. Without Sambandha, without knowledge of my relationship with the Supreme, nothing spiritual can transpire. Nothing. And today we're going to go into the Abhideya Tattva. I think that's where we're up to. I'll start from the... Huh?
Page 62. Lahiri.
Oh, page 62. Okay.
Lahiri is asking the question.
Okay, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay, okay. So I'm just going to read the last paragraph that we read yesterday just to connect us again. Brahm is only one aspect of Bhagavan, and we discussed yesterday the topics, the qualities of Brahm, Gyan and Vairagya, how it's like an impersonal, yes, they're not personal. Those whose spiritual intelligence is limited are attracted to the feature of the Supreme that is devoid of qualities, and it's formless, immutable, unknowable, and immeasurable. Oh, that is devoid of qualities, and is formless, immutable, unknowable, and immeasurable. This is the nature of Brahm. But those who are all-seeing, Sarva-darshi, have no attraction for anything other than the complete absolute truth. That means if we've been guided by sadhu sangha, if we've been guided by a pure devotee, first of all, perhaps we might be guided just by the vani of that pure devotee. That's sufficient to get us on track, to understand this aspect, this truth. Vaishnavas, but it's not sufficient to keep us going. We have to connect with those sadhus who will actually carry us across the line. We have to see it in real life, so to speak. We can't just be satisfied with the scriptures guiding us. There has to be some association. The sadhu has to demonstrate these truths in his own life to give an example to others to actually follow. And the pure sadhu will do that. Vaishnavas have no significant faith in Sri Hari's formless, impersonal feature, for it is opposed to their eternal function of unalloyed prem. Why is it opposed? Because there's no recognition of the object of our devotion. in that formless place. So if it's formless, then where is Krishna? If it's without attributes, where is Krishna? Where is all his pastimes? Where is his dham? It's all not there. Bhagavan Sri Krishna Chandra is the basis of both the personal and impersonal features. Yes, Krishna is the basis of both at the same time. So we have to be completely dedicated and sincere to this path. Otherwise, we will easily slip off it. He is an ocean of supreme transcendental bliss, and he attracts all pure jivas. Krishna, the name means all attractive. Lahari, how can Sri Krishna's form be eternal, since he takes birth, performs activities, and gives up his body? How can he be eternal? There's a beautiful verse in the third canto where Uddhava is saying, Karamani anihasya bhavo bhavasyate, bharavas yuteshra ram pramod. This is a verse that's describing that Krishna, he doesn't take birth, and yet he does take birth. And he's fear personified, yet he hides in a fortress in the ocean. And he's the most renounced, yet he lives with 16,108 queens. How can the pundits, how can scholars understand and reconcile these differences? So Lahari, he's asking this question. How can I reconcile Krishna is that supreme eternal if he's got a form? This is what confounds the impersonalists. They can't make that understanding from the formless into having a form of potency and Shakti. They can't make that bridge. You understand what I'm saying clearly? How can Sri Krishna's form be eternal, since he takes birth, performs activities, and gives up his body? That's what he presents to the public. Babaji, Sri Krishna's form is Satchit Ananda, ever existing, full of knowledge and completely blissful. His birth, activities, and leaving the body have no connection with mundane matter. He's not connected with mundane matter at all. He never is connected with mundane matter. Then why have such descriptions been given in Mahabharata and other Shastras? Babaji, the eternal truth defies description, for it is beyond words. Words are something that we're putting into intellectual or academic understanding from this realm. But to describe words, to reach that realm, we've said before, we need the transcendental connection, which is completely beyond words and space and time. It's beyond the concepts of past, present, and future. This is transcendence. Then why have such descriptions been given in Mahabharata and other Shastras? Babaji, the eternal truth defies description, for it is beyond words. The pure soul, in his spiritual aspect, sees the transcendental form and pastimes of Sri Krishna, but when he describes that supreme reality in words, it appears just like a worldly, mundane history. Yes. It can't really capture, because it's not received in its transcendental potency if we haven't become transformed in our consciousness. When we hear these pastimes as a devotee, lifting Govardhan Hill, dancing on the hoods of Kalia Naga, etc., the devotee becomes very excited for that. But the non-devotee, he can't put his full faith in those pastimes because he hasn't developed this Sambandha Gyan, which is going to be described. The pure soul, in his spiritual aspect, sees the transcendental form and pastimes of Sri Krishna, but when he describes that supreme reality in words, it appears just like worldly, mundane history. Those who are eligible to extract the essence from Shastras, such as the Mahabharata, experience Krishna's pastimes as they are. However, when people of mundane intelligence hear these descriptions, they interpret them in different ways. Yes, this is the fact. Lahari, when one meditates on the form of Sri Krishna, the conception that arises in the heart is limited by time and space. How can one transcend such limitations and meditate on Krishna's actual form? What a beautiful question. What a beautiful question. Let's hear the answer. Babaji, meditation is an action of the mind, and as long as the mind is not fully spiritualized, one's meditation cannot be spiritual, chinmoy. Bhakti purifies the mind so that it gradually becomes spiritual, and when one meditates with the mind that has become purified in that way, such meditation certainly becomes chinmaya. So when the mind is purified of all the obstructions, our attractions, the anarthas, etc., Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said in another place that the mind is the only instrument we have to reach transcendence. We only have the mind. So it's essential that we control the mind. The mind is like a wild horse if we don't, and can lead us into all kinds of difficulties and problems if we let it just run its own course without controlling it. I mean, if you're riding on a horse and you're not controlling the horse, if you're just letting it run, this is not what a wise man would do. When Bhajananandi Vaishnavas chant Krishna's name, the material world cannot touch them because they are chinmoy. Internally, they are situated in the spiritual world as they meditate on Krishna's daily pastimes and relish the bliss of confidential service. How beautiful. When we're chanting our mala in the morning time and we're meditating on Nishanta Lila, Prata Lila, Purvana Lila, Madhyana Lila, Apurvana Lila, Shyam Lila, Pradosh Lila, Ratri Lila, when we're meditating on these different yamas of the day and understanding all the different activities that are going on in the different, it's so packed. There are so many pastimes going on. So the devotee wants to become empowered by the sound vibration of the holy name so that he can fully appreciate all of these leelas that are happening. And when he's doing that, he's actually in the spiritual realm. He's there. He's not perhaps fully enlightened, we can say, but he's certainly got one step out of this material world. If we take it carefully and seriously, sadhan, bhajan. Lahari, please be merciful and grant me such spiritual realization. Chid Anubhav. Yes, Lahari is realizing. This is the first time he said it directly. He's asking for direct mercy to come from Vaishnava-das. When that mercy comes from Guru, from sadhus, we know it's come. Perhaps sometimes in the day we're chanting, we're thinking of different things are going through the consciousness, but then all of a sudden something very wonderful begins to happen, and I realize actually I'm fully on track with my spiritual meditation. Then we should consider, where did that come from? Did I just offer pranam to Tulsi Devi? Did I just meet a powerful sadhu? Did I chant something correctly? Like there's a reason why that mercy becomes ignited within us or inspired within us. You understand? It comes. So we should try to consider, what was it that gave me such inspiration? You understand what I'm saying? You have those experiences.
Can it be dreams?
Dreams also can be very inspiring, but in the dream world, it's more like directly. But the dream world will act according to what the impressions were we received the previous day. What you're going to dream about at night is going to be according to what you actually experienced in the day or previously. It's very rare that something completely separate is going to manifest in the dream. When you abandon, Babaji, when you abandon all material doubts and mundane logic, he's saying this to a Brahmin gentleman. For him to, abandon mundane logic is not going to be a simple thing, especially in an older body. But by the association of Vaishnava Das Babaji, then he will be able to do that. We'll see. It's all by association. And constantly apply yourself to Sri Nam spiritual realization will quickly arise within you of its own accord. We don't have, previously, Lahari Mahashai was saying that I just want to try to inspire these bhavs within me. But this is not the nature of pure transcendental sadhana. These moods will automatically come within us. First of all, this mantra upasana, and then the swarasiki upasana, these different states of consciousness while we're chanting on one pastime, and then swarasiki, many pastimes start to tumble through the mind simultaneously. The more you resort to mundane logic, it's like our security bag is the mundane logic. We always try to keep the mundane logic there because it's got to make sense in the material world. But that is holding us back. That's restricting us. This path is without the mundane logic. I've described a couple of times that in the stories of the Christian mystics, when they describe their journey into the Brahman, because that's the only place that they can actually have access to, and they're experiencing the light, etc., and the loving mood that's coming from the Brahman. But then they start to consider, try to analyze it. What's happening here? Then immediately they come back down again. That's just an example. But as soon as we start to analyze the change in consciousness in a logical, academic way, well, what's happened, then immediately it's going to be lost, because it indicates that my Sharanagat, my faith in the Supreme Lord, is not complete. I'm not trusting in where He's bringing me in my consciousness. I'm thinking, no, I have to hold on to what I understand, my logic, my rationale. You understand? We always have to hold this like security blanket or security pillow, whatever, which is our academic, intelligent part of our minds. But even that has to be let go in the real diving into meditation. Yes.
Like for a sadhak who's practicing, is it, you said about Swarasiki and Mantra Upasana. So when he's into that, his count might not complete sometimes. Does that matter? Means
No, it doesn't matter.
because
No, it doesn't matter is the answer to your question.
okay.
He's asking about maintaining our numbers of mala. And if we're having a divine experience, then it won't matter. But if you're concerned for it, when that divine experience ceases, then just chant more and make up for whatever you omitted. You're not going to crash the gates of heaven by numbers.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way.
And even that, whatever the leelas, it is also coming very naturally. Not that
Yes,
we can...
this is exactly what he's saying here. It'll come naturally. We know in the stage of ruchi, for example, there has to be some imposition on the mind to control the senses in the stage of ruchi. But it's described in the stage of asakti. There's no imposition on the mind. We automatically are attracted to Krishna. That's the stage of asakti. So it's like that. This is what he's described. Automatically that's going on. There's no need for imposition on the mind. Even Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, right at the very beginning, he said this Hare Krishna mantra is not an imposition for the mind. It's not something to like intimidate the mind with, so to speak. It's something so powerful, it'll just carry the mind to a transcendental place of consciousness if we have let go of our material logic and rationality. If we stop trying to be the controllers in this world, at least during that period of our meditation. When we're in meditation, then we can just give up our desire to control everything and just allow the Lord's mercy to come through. with his pastimes.
So in that you said imposition. Can we infer that, like, suppose the mind is not it's on a not meditative platform, with the help of mantra, means we need not worry about is it sticking on somewhere or something.
No, we have to guide it
Huh.
until we're at a higher stage. It has to be guided. Obviously, for example, if you just wake up in the morning and your mind is all over the place from the previous day's impressions, then perhaps we have to read a little bit. We have to refocus. We have to train. We have to have our sadhan, our steps to again reawaken that more sublime state of consciousness where we're actually directly having perception, direct perception, pratyakshavagamam dharmyam, susukam, kartam avyayam, saying in Bhagavad Gita. This process is by direct perception. We only want direct perception. If we're not getting direct perception, we're not going to be satisfied. What's the point? What's the point of just going on chanting and there's nothing actually manifesting? And if nothing is manifesting, then I should be crying. I should be becoming more enthusiastic to try to evoke the mercy of the Lord. Somehow or other, examine myself closer and closer. What am I doing that's wrong? Shukadev Goswami, that heart is steel-framed, that doesn't melt and cry tears when one is taking the holy name. And the purport for that is that if one is committing offenses to the holy name, what is the 10th offense? After understanding hearing so many instructions on this matter, one still doesn't have complete faith in this. That means you haven't come to the paramattic stage. You're still in the lokik sambandha stage. You're still on this worldly platform. And what impetus do we have to get off the worldly platform? This world stinks, doesn't it? And if you don't think it does, Krishna will arrange for you to have an experience of that. I mean, it's so easy today in Kali Yuga. We just see the anomalies, we just see the degradation, we see the horrors that are being perpetrated everywhere. More horrors than positive things are going on.
And at a very young age, we can get the sting.
Huh?
At a very young age itself.
Yes, we're conditioned from birth with all these horrors. So it's not easy in Kali Yuga. But at the same time, it is easy to reject, to understand its place. It becomes very easy for us to think. If you're in a traditional Indian family where you're brought up with so much attachment to mother, father, family, etc., then it's very hard to disengage and realize this is not my mother. This is not my eternal father. These are not my relatives. These are just passing by in this one brief life. We have to appreciate how brief, not even 100 years practically these days. That's the lifespan, because the air is so polluted, food is polluted, water is polluted, the ground is polluted. How can we actually optimize this vehicle of the body in such a condition where we don't have the support from nature? Nature's been like pushed around. But if we keep these attachments, we can never break out of that mundanity. So we have to be careful.
I have one question regarding the point that number of counts. So, but Haridas Thakurji was
chanting 3 lakh names.
3 lakhs a day. So, how to understand this?
Haridas Thakur is the Namacharya, and he had the ability to do like that, even though he was transported to such a high state of ecstasy while he was chanting, and he just never stopped that chanting. So we cannot imitate this, but we attempt to maintain our steady daily intake. Sankhya Purvaka Nama Ganinati B. Srinivasacharya, he's singing in the Sad Goswami Astakams, to maintain these mala. It's saying that Mahaprabhu would never take prasadam at the house of someone who wasn't a lakpati, someone who didn't chant a lakh names. Actually, once you start to chant that, you find that you can do it very easily. You just have to make that jump of faith to begin to incorporate that in your life, and then to schedule it through the day. But there are something 441 minutes in the day. You can do the calculation on I've forgotten the actual number. But there's so many minutes in the day, 24 hours in the day, to actually just vibrate
1440
14,
40
four-
minutes.
1,440, yes, 1,440 minutes in the day. So when you start to chant a lot, you start to examine, well, perhaps I don't need a 20-minute conversation with this particular person. Perhaps I can minimize that. Perhaps I don't need to do all this shopping and wandering around in the supermarket. If I have my focus, if I have my list exactly, all little tricks along the way to tighten the time that we can spend with these transcendental activities. And it comes very easily once you begin to chant. You get the higher intelligence. Krishna wants us to chant. He creates a situation. I can remember personally when I began to chant more, and I was dressing Prabhupada in the Samadhi in Vrindavan. And that very day that I took this resolve to chant more, one devotee came almost crying and weeping, "Please, can I dress Prabhupada? I'm really anxious to do it." So very easily, yes, go ahead, do, you can do. And then a few days later, I was dressing Krishna Balaram, and another Italian devotee came, and he was also begging me to show him how to dress, and he really wanted to do that. So within 3 or 4 days, all these services that I had been doing were very easily just taken away, and someone else was doing them. So Krishna, he showed me, if you have this priority, I will arrange your scheduling. That's an example from a temple situation. If you're in a household with your job and all the rest of it, you can still try. If you take that resolve, watch the miracles that Krishna can arrange for you to still get the same necessary income into your family. But also, another amazing thing that happens when we chant more is that our material desires go down. If our material desires go down, we don't want so many things from the supermarket. We realize that we don't need all these things in our lives. So when our material desires go down, we don't have to work so hard to fulfill these material desires. If you're not chanting practically at all, your material desires are on fire. They're so high. And we think, yes, this is very respectable. I want this good car. I want this good camera. I want this, that, all these things. But if you chant more, you realize the futility of all these objects. And then gradually you come down. Yes, I just need a few meals a day, some medicine, a roof over my head, some cloth on my body. These are the 4 main objects that we need in our lives. But to try to increase that, that's going to take a lot of time. So keep increasing your material desires, and you'll never have time to chant a lakh a day. Of course not. But if you do chant a lakh a day, and it's very invigorating to do that, and immediately you start to feel, I am a serious devotee, even if you're just chanting 32 rounds a day, or even 25 rounds a day. But we should quickly break out of this boundary of 16 rounds a day. That will really just keep us like treading water. You won't actually go anywhere. You won't move. You won't develop. But 32 rounds, you will start, even 25, you will break out of that restriction and start to go somewhere. And 40 rounds, you will feel, yes, I'm really demonstrating my sincerity in my practice. I've really put this on the front burner of my life, even at 40 rounds a day. 32 rounds also is very respectable. But then from 40, it's a very short step to 64 also. And if we're doing like that, we're feeling internally the abhiman of being more like a devotee. We're feeling the identity. Yes, I am aspiring for that platform of being a pure devotee. So the counting really is significant and really helps. Mahaprabhu created that situation for us. He's given us the holy name, and he's given us the method. If we read that Harinam Chintamani, Haridas Thakur, he explains everything. But he was able to do those 3 lakhs a day, somehow or other. I don't know how he was able to do it, but he was. He's the Namacharya. However, when people of mundane at the top of 63, I think, yes. However, when people of mundane intelligence hear these descriptions, they interpret them in.
When Bhajananandi Vaishnava.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Babaji.
Okay. Please be merciful, yes, and grant me such spiritual realization. Babaji, when you abandon all material, yes, we read this, material doubts and mundane logic and constantly apply yourself to Sri Nam, spiritual realization will quickly arise within you of its own accord. The more you resort to mundane logic, the more you will subjugate your mind to material bondage. The more you strive to initiate the flow of Nam Ras, the more your material shackles will be loosened. That's what we've just spoken about for the last 10 minutes. The spiritual dimension will then manifest in your heart. Have faith. Lahiri, please be merciful and explain what that spiritual experience is. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. That's on a cliffhanger. So for tomorrow. Actually, I want to read this paragraph so we can meditate on it twice, because I like to read the paragraph the next day also. So we'll just read this last paragraph. The mind is brought to a standstill when it tries to understand that truth through words. The truth can be realized only through culture of spiritual bliss. Culture means practice, like you cultivate your ground to put the seeds in. Culture of spiritual bliss. Chid Anand. Give up all your argumentations and simply chant Sri Nam for several days. Then the power of Nam will automatically dispel all of your doubts, and you will you will not have to inquire further from anyone in this regard. So we'll stop there. So I love this expression here. The mind is brought to a standstill when one tries to understand that truth through word. What does that mean? That means there's no more logic, there's no more reasoning, there's no more rationality going on. It's brought to a standstill. The mind doesn't have to reason, doesn't have to be mental about it, can just accept that divine point of bliss and sweetness and connection with transcendence. It will happen if we have faith in that more than we have faith in the material world.
It's in the present moment, basically.
Absolutely. There's no past, there's no future. When
Words here mean mantra.
Huh?
Understand the truth through words. What does words here mean?
Where are we?
The mind is brought to a standstill when it tries to understand the truth through words.
Yes, trying to explain. Trying to use logic, rational, intellectual. That's what I just said. If you're trying to use words to explain the truth, you can't. You give up that idea of trying to explain the truth and recognize it as a transcendental experience. Don't try and restrict it. That's what we've been talking about most of the class. Don't put words indicate logic. Gokul, words indicate logic, don't they? That means you've got to be intelligent to have the words. So the truth can't be described like that. It's beyond that. Because it's not mundane. It's absolute. And there are no words. But we use this language to show an indication of where it is. But when you actually start to make some connection, there's no more words to describe that. It's beyond words, beyond logic, beyond rationale, beyond reasoning. This is why he's brought in the conception or the understanding. Please chant. Then it will be beyond the mind and words.
The words explain road, but not the globe.
Huh? The words explain the world?
Road, way. But not the
They don't describe, they can't give us the goal completely, but they will guide us to the goal. Yes. Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So we're on page 64, but I'm just going to read that last comment of Babaji. So Lahari was saying, please be merciful and explain what that spiritual experience is. Very beautiful question. So Babaji is saying, the mind is brought to a standstill when it tries to understand that truth through words. In other words, material language has no entrance into transcendence. It's beyond words, beyond logic, beyond rationality. Gokul was asking the question yesterday about this, but it's beyond anything rational. The truth can be realized only through culture of spiritual bliss. Culture, that means cultivating this mood of bringing happiness to Krishna, serving Krishna with affection. There's three types of way described as serving Krishna. One is called Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas, and this means worshipping the Supreme Lord. And the next one is Anukul Abhilas, worshipping Krishna favorably. And the third is Sohard Abhilas, worshipping Krishna as a friend. They're actually in three gradations. If you look on page 507, you can see these three are written there. 507. So it's saying in the second paragraph down on 507, if prem is compared to the sun, because previously we were talking about bhav, bhav can be compared to a ray, kiran, of the sun. The constitutional nature swarup of bhav is that it is a ray of the sun of prem, and its unique characteristic visheshata is that it purifies the heart of the jiva and thus causes the heart to become softened and melted. Now, Lahari is asking, how is it going to be melted? He's asking for how is that experience? So now it's answering here. The word ruchi, ruchi means taste, so signifies three desires. These are the desire to attain the service of Radha and Krishna, Prapti Abhilas, or we can say Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas. It's described as both. And then the second is the desire to do that which is favorable for Krishna's pleasure, Anukul Abhilas. And the third, the desire to serve Krishna with love and affection, Sohard Abhilas. So there's three gradations. It's not just serving Krishna and Radha, but it's serving Krishna and Radha favorably, and it's even beyond there. So this is what it's describing here. So this is like we can relate that to the mood of Vaisnava-das when he's answering Lahari here. Give up all argumentation. That even means arguing with himself, but becoming fixed in Shraddha, becoming fixed in his focus there. Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Koi Sudrita Nishchoy. This means with confidence. When you're fixed in faith, then your confidence is going to be supreme. Then you're going to have no doubts anywhere. So your confidence will be full. Then you'll be able to engage fully without any mental or obstruction coming from the mind or even from other people. You'll know exactly like an arrow. Sadhu means going like an arrow. It means direct, without all these encumbrances. Give up all argumentations and simply chant Shri Nam for several days. Then the power of Nam will automatically dispel all of your doubts, and you will not have to inquire further from anyone in this regard. Lahari, I have understood that one obtains supreme spiritual benefit by drinking the liquid rasa of Sri Krishna Nam with great faith. So I will chant Sri Nam when I have understood Sambandha Gyan very clearly. So now we're going into Sambandha Gyan, then Abhidaya, and then Prayojan. Babaji, that is the best way. You must have a sound understanding of Sambandha Gyan. Without Sambandha Gyan, we can't move forward. Lahari, Bhagavat Tattva, the fundamental truth regarding Bhagavan, has now become clear to me. Bhagavan is the one supreme absolute truth, and Brahm and Paramatma are subordinate to him. Yes, we've already discussed this. Paramatma is not eternal. It's temporary truth. Although all-pervading, Sri Bhagavan resides in the spiritual world in his unique transcendental form, which possesses all potencies and is the supreme person of concentrated existence, knowledge, and bliss. That is description of Bhagavan. Although the master of all potencies, he always remains completely entranced in exuberant association with his pleasure-giving potency, Hladini Shakti. Yes, Bhagavan is dependent on his potencies. Actually, even though he's Atmaram Aptakam, he's still dependent on his, and we are, in fact, one of his potencies, the Jiva. Krishna only manifests for the sake of the Jiva. He comes into this world to encourage Prityanai Sadhanam Vinishaya Shadustikram. He comes like that. Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manusyam Deha Ashridra. He comes to inspire and encourage the bhaktas. This is why he also becomes encouraged by seeing the bhaktas engaging in satisfied devotion to him. Now kindly instruct me about Jiva Tattva. Babaji, the Tatastha Shakti or marginal potency is one of Sri Krishna's innumerable potencies. Issuing forth from this marginal potency are the entities who are situated between the Chit Jagat and the Jad Jagat. Yes, they haven't come from the spiritual world. It's very clear here. If you understand that they don't fall from Vaikuntha, they've come from a particular location. But Tatastha is not a geographical location, it's a state of consciousness. That's where they've come from. And which have the potential to associate with either. These entities are known as Jiva Tattva. The Jivas are Chit Paramanu by composition, which means that they are atomic entities of pure consciousness. Yes, we understand this in the philosophy of Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. We are atomic potencies of the same consciousness, Chit consciousness. So we have the ability to actually have a loving relationship with Krishna. We have that potency within us. These jivas can be bound in the material world bound in the material world because they are tiny. But since they are constituted of pure consciousness, if they simply acquire a little spiritual power, they can also become eternal residents of the spiritual world and obtain Paramanand, the supreme transcendental pleasure. But because we are Chid, this Paramanu, we are tiny portions of transcendence, we can attain that highest Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. Mahaprabhu is saying in his Shikshastikam, we can attain that highest bliss, that unlimited bliss in relationship to Krishna. That is our fortune, that is our, but we're not thinking, oh, I just want to attain bliss. We want the heart to melt in loving sentiments of service to the Supreme. And then automatically that bliss will come as a secondary factor, so to speak. But it's not that we're chasing after the bliss. That's not our incentive. That's like a path of liberation, just trying to get away from the suffering of the material world. We're striving to actually wake up my pure identity in service to the Lord, to remember that. Prakritam risadyate. There are two types of jivas, mukta, liberated, and baddha, bound. The jivas who reside in the spiritual world are mukta, whereas those who are shackled by Maya and attached to this material world are baddha. Yes, it's not that they're actually physically or even grossly in any way bound. We are binding ourselves. It's our desires that have put the shackles on. I've said many times that we're holding on to the tree and shouting out, let go, let go. Who is holding on? Once we take responsibility for our predicament, then we can actually become freed from it. If we don't take responsibility, if we don't realize that the key is in my hand, I can never get out. Not ever. I'll feel, oh, poor me. I'm being so oppressed. But I've created all the karma that's oppressing me. There are two types of Baddha jivas, those who are spiritually awake, udita vivek. I said before this beautiful word, udita, and we sing this bhajan, udila arano. Every morning we sing this bhajan. The sun is just rising, udila. That's how we can remember. And Vivek means intelligence. So intelligence is rising, Udita Vivek. And those who are spiritually unconscious, Anudita Vivek. These are very wonderful terms. Birds, beasts, and human beings who do not seek their supreme spiritual benefit are spiritually unconscious. What is it? There's Achadita Chaitana, those like trees. Then there's Mukulita Chaitana, no, Sankulita Chaitana, then Mukulita Chaitana, then Purna Chaita, then Vikashepta, Purna. There's 5. They're described in the introduction here. Achadita Chaitana, Sankulita Chaitana, Mukulita Chaitana, Vikashepta Chaitana. No, Purna Mukulita, yes, correct. It's very helpful to appreciate. Every time you look at a tree, you think Achadita Chaitana. You think Chaitana means consciousness. They're of lower consciousness, but they're still spiritual entities. They have souls. So don't chop them all down. It's so shocking what they're doing on the planet. Human beings who do not seek their supreme spiritual benefit are spiritually unconscious, whereas human beings who have adopted the path of Vaishnavism are spiritually awake. For no one except the Vaishnavas genuinely endeavor to attain the supreme spiritual goal. Yes, it's saying genuinely, because it's like we have karma mishra bhakti, gyan mishra bhakti, bhakti that's mixed with karma, bhakti that's mixed with gyan. It's not pure. Only the Vaishnavas, only the Shuddha Vaishnavas, Ananya Bhakti is pure. Only this. This is why the Shastras have declared that serving Vaishnavas and associating with them is the best of all activities. Sadhu Sangha Sharva Shastra Hoy. Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. So this is the principle. And of those 5 types of angas of devotion we described, Sadhu Sangha is first, then Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravana, Mathura Vas, and then Srimutaya Shraddha Sevaya. These 5. Those who are spiritually awake develop taste for the practice of Krishna Nam on the strength of their faith in Shastra. And from this, they easily develop an attraction for serving and associating with Vaishnavas. You must, if you chant constantly, regularly, you must develop a taste for finding where are those pure-hearted Vaishnavas. It's just natural. However, those who are spiritually unconscious cannot awaken their faith in Shastra, and thus do not adopt the practice of Krishna Nam. They only worship the deity of Krishna as a matter of social custom. Consequently, the taste for associating with Vaishnavas and serving them is not awakened in their hearts. See this all the time in the big cities. Everyone's going to the temple, they're praying, and their material desires are chattering as they're praying. And they're just hoping that something will come to them, even if they're praying to Vishnu. So this is the tragedy without education. Lahari, I have understood Krishna Tattva and Jiva Tattva. Now please explain Maya Tattva. Babaji, Maya is the material function and is a potency of Krishna. This potency is known as the inferior potency, Apara Shakti, or the external energy, Bahiranga Shakti. Maya remains far away from Krishna and Krishna Bhakti, just as a shadow remains distant from light. Maya manifests the elements earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, and intelligence, the 14 divisions of planetary systems, and the egoism by which one identifies the material body as the self. That's the biggest drawback. This considering myself this body. Both the gross and subtle bodies of the Bada Jiva are products of Maya, the subtle body. That means the astral plane. That means those experiences we might experiencing some euphoric state from music or seeing a magnificent sunset or something of this nature. This is not spiritual. This is all in the subtle region, in the subtle realm. We should know definitively what is that spiritual experience, and we will know that when we chant, because that chanting will give us a taste of that pure vibration, the spiritual sound vibration. We'll know it. Innately we'll know it. Automatically the soul will know it. When you hear that sound vibration, you'll realize what is spirit and what is matter. You'll realize it. When the jiva is liberated, his spiritual body is untainted by matter. The more he is ensnared by Maya, the more he is diverted from Krishna. And the more he is aloof from Maya, the more he is drawn towards Krishna. Very simple. You should know your individual Maya. You know more than anyone what is your attraction for the material world. You know, if you're honest. And you should write it down sometime, secretly in a book. You know, what are your attractions and what do you have to work on? You should know that clearly. No one else knows what your desires are the way you do. You know them most clearly. Various material objects, various states of mind, sleep even, eating, all these different things. These can all be influenced by our desire to enjoy. So we have to be cautious. The material universe is created by the will of Krishna, just to facilitate the material enjoyment of the Bada Jivas. So we have plenty of facility. It's a big world from that standpoint. It is only a jail and not the eternal residence of the Jivas. It is. It's not our eternal. We are foreigners in a foreign land. This is not our home. Don't try and make this your home in any way or fashion. Don't look for a nice, comfortable situation. Look for Krishna always. Make a situation where you can think of Krishna. You need to have a particular situation where it's conducive for you to think of Krishna, where you're not disturbed by the environment excessively. You can think of Krishna so much if you're living in the middle of a deep city even, if you're focused and conscious, and if you're speaking to all the people in the city about Krishna or you're propagating Krishna consciousness. It doesn't matter. You can live in the forest or you can live in the city, so long as you're focusing on Krishna. Wherever is your proclivity, wherever you feel most able to advance spiritually, then that place we should make our sitting place. Lahari, Master, now tell me about the eternal relationship that exists between Maya, the Jivas, and Krishna. This is the main question. We can understand Sambandha Gyan, we can understand Abhidaya Gyan, we can understand Prayojan, but what is their relationship with each other is very, very important to appreciate. Babaji, the Jiva is an atomic particle of consciousness, Anuchit, and Krishna is the complete consciousness, Purnachit. Therefore, the Jiva is the eternal servant of Krishna, 100% full. This material world is a prison house for the Jivas because there's no Krishna in matter. Our spiritual experience can't manifest activities within matter unless they're directed to Krishna. We can build a temple, for example, glorify Krishna. We can print books, for example, glorifying Krishna. We can perform our puja if it's glorifying Krishna. But if it's anything less than that, I said the other day this beautiful verse from the Chatushloki, Rite Ritam Yat Pratiyata Na Pratiyata Nakatmati Mayo Mayam Yato Basho Yato Tamaha. That anything that is not connecting with me is ignorance and Maya. Any activity that is not directed in any form with my glories, my transcendence, is a product of Maya. But that Maya itself is a product of Krishna. By the strength of association with saintly people in this world, one repeatedly practices the chanting of Sri Nam. In due course of time, one attains Krishna's mercy, and when one is situated in one's own perfected spiritual form, Chit Swarup, in the spiritual world, one drinks the ras, liquid mellow, of service to Sri Krishna. Guru will give us our Siddhadeya. He will give us our understanding. Our Siddhadeya is already there, in embryo, so to speak. It's there. Nitya Siddhyasya Bhavasya Prakritamiti Sadhita. It's already eternally existing. And Guru will inspire that to wakefulness. This is the confidential relationship that exists between these three fundamental realities, tattvas. How can one perform bhajan without this knowledge? So understand the jiva, understand Krishna, and understand the nature and workings of Maya, which are distracting us from Krishna. These three principles, these three vastus, we talked about them in the first chapter, second chapter, and third chapter. Now we're hearing them again because they're so fundamental for creating the platform of our progress. Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya, and Prayojan. Lahari, if knowledge is obtained by academic study, must one be a scholar to become a Vaishnava? This is good question because we have to use our advanced material intelligence. Actually, our intelligence will wake up when we chant. As soon as you sit down and chant, it's not that you will just feel materially more peaceful and more comfortable, but your material intelligence will be raised. And with that material intelligence, we still have a choice. We're still in the Tatashta. We can use that material intelligence to create a nice material situation for ourselves, or we can use that material intelligence to advance towards Krishna. So you still have the choice. It's like filling up the tank with water, with petrol rather. And then we have to know where we're going to drive. Taking Harinam is like filling the vehicle with sufficient potency to go somewhere. But if you've got all that potency, you can still go to the material world with that potency. Sri Nam is not going to restrict you going into that if that's your heart's desire. So if knowledge is obtained by academic study, must one be a scholar to become a Vaishnava? Babaji, there is no specific learning nor any particular language which one must study in order to become a Vaishnava. In order to dispel the illusion of Maya, the jiva should take shelter at the feet of a genuine guru, who is a true Vaishnava. The Vaishnava guru can impart Sambandha Gyan by his words and behavior. This is known as Diksha and Shiksha. So this is paramount. This is essential. Without guru, then nothing can transpire. Guru Nishta, my Gurudev would always say, is the backbone of our devotional progress. Without this Guru Nishta, nothing really is going to manifest because this Guru is connecting with transcendence. Absolutely paramount. And whatever our relationship is with Guru, we should always consider it's not enough because it has to be dynamic. If we think, oh, I've done so much service for my Guru, I can just sit back now, then immediately Maya will capture the mind. We have never done enough. I've told you previously, my Gurudev would think that he hadn't done enough. He was doing festivals every day of his life, and yet he never felt that he was actually pleasing his Gurudev sufficiently for the amazing wealth of transcendence that he had received from his Guru. We have to have that appreciation. If you don't have that appreciation, then you won't feel grateful. If nothing has really transpired in your life to make you appreciate where you've come from, where you've come to rather, from where you've been, unless we can appreciate the quality of our vision of the world around us, unless it's improved dramatically, we can't feel that gratitude to Guru that comes from seva. Lahari, what should one do after receiving Diksha and Shiksha? Babaji. One should maintain virtuous conduct and perform Krishna bhajan. This is known as Abhidaya Tattva, the means to achieve the ultimate goal of Krishna Prem. Yes, virtuous conduct, and we all know what is virtuous conduct. Jiva Goswami says it's innate within the Jiva to know what is right and what is wrong. We know automatically the Jiva is blessed with that discrimination. He doesn't have to question, he doesn't have to read, he doesn't become an erudite scholar to know that. He knows intuitively what is correct and what is not. He knows intuitively what is envy and what is not envy. It's this enviousness that will always cripple the devotee's progress. Envy of other devotees and criticizing other devotees through envy. This is what will cripple and impede our progress. We said yesterday that Shukadev Goswami, he's writing in the second canto that heart is steel framed. If while taking the holy name, tears don't come to the eyes, the hairs don't stand on end, and one's body shivers. He's saying like that. And why is that not manifesting? Because of offenses, because of still this deep-rooted envy is there in the heart. This tattva has been prominently described in the Vedas and all the Shastras. Consequently, Sriman Mahaprabhu has referred to this fundamental truth as Abhidaya Tattva. Lahari Mahashai's eyes filled with tears, and he said, "O Divine Master, I take shelter at your lotus feet. Now that I have heard your ambrosial words, I now understand Sambandha Gyan, and at the same time, to my utter amazement, all my sanskars, or deep-rooted mental impressions related to my caste, identification, education, and training have been dissolved by your mercy. Now please be merciful and instruct me about Abhidaya Tattva." So you see the same thing happened to Vaisnava-das, Sannyasi Thakur. He had the same misconceptions about his position as a Mayavad sannyasi, a Brahmagyani sannyasi. And all of these were dispelled by the mercy of Paramahamsa Babaji. And now, by the mercy of Vaishnava Das, Lahari's deep-rooted attachments are being dispelled. It's all sadhu sangha. That's the thread. Understand the thread all the way through. It's describing all the different tattvas, but this thread of sadhu sangha is imperative. Guru nishta, imperative. Absolutely imperative. Describe to me Abhidaya Tattva. Now, Babaji, now there is no worry. Your development of humility is a sure sign that Sri Chaitanya Dev has bestowed his mercy upon you. Yes, this humility. When this humility is there, that with humility it means I don't know the truth. And it's my Guru who is giving me this seed. That it wasn't by my own volition that this was happening. This has come by the mercy of the Lord. This has come by divine providence. This is putting me in touch with transcendence. Sadhu Sangha is the only means of deliverance for the jivas who are entangled in this world. The sadhus and guru mercifully impart instructions on how to perform bhajan, and on the strength of that bhajan, one gradually obtains the supreme goal, prayojan. Sadhan bhakti, devotional practice, is called abhidaya. So that's the practice. By associating with sadhus and practicing our required mantras, etc., are required sevas. Lahari, please tell me how to do Bhagavat Bhajan. Babaji, Hari Bhajan means bhakti. Bhakti means devotion. There are 3 stages of bhakti. The stage of practice, sadhan, the first dawning of divine love, bhav, and the mature stage of divine love, prem. So this is that verse, Klesh Agni Shubhada. Moksha, that's sadhan. Klesh Agni, Klesh, our suffering, Agni has been incinerated. And Shubhada, everything is becoming auspicious in even our material lives. Because simultaneously we're connecting with transcendence. This is the stage of sadhan bhakti. But if sadhan bhakti is not being focused on bhav bhakti, it's described by the sages that this sadhan bhakti is like 0, because it's just lingering in that stage of enjoying some shantaras, or some material pleasure, some respite from the onslaught of the material whippings that we receive through our various karmas. So kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhav sasadhanavida. No. Klesh agni shubhada. Then the next stage, moksha lukhatakrit. Sudurlabha. Sudurlabha means very, very rare. So this moksha lukhatakrit means that I look with disdain, I look with displeasure on moksha. Moksha no longer excites me, no longer inspires my mind. That's bhav bhakti. This is the second stage of bhav bhakti. Then the third stage is Sandra Ananda Visheshatma Sri Krishna Akashani Chasa. This is the third stage. This is prem. This Sandra Ananda. What does Sandra Ananda mean? Ananda, this Sandra Ananda means that nothing else can enter into the consciousness except prem. Nothing else can go in. That's pretty wonderful, isn't it? Nothing else can go there except prem. Completely, only prem can enter. That's Sandra Ananda. And then this will please Sri Krishna Akashani Chasa. This will please and attract Krishna. Krishna will come in that prem consciousness. Baba, Lahari, please instruct me, what are the different types of sadhan and how are they performed? Babaji, Sri Rupa Goswami has described this subject very elaborately in his book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I will relate it to you in brief. There are 9 types of sadhan: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. The 9 primary limbs of devotion are hearing, chanting, and remembering, serving his lotus feet, worshipping him with various types of paraphernalia, offering prayers, serving him in a mood of an exclusive servant, serving him in the mood of an intimate friend, and offering one's very self to him. So again, it's a progress to come to the final, to worshipping him, offering him one's very self. This is Atmanivedanam. I'm putting my head completely on the lotus feet of the Lord. These 9 types of sadhan bhakti are described in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23. This is Prahlad Maharaj speaking this to his demonic father. Sri Rupa Goswami has analyzed these 9 in terms of their various parts and subdivisions and has given an elaborate description of the 64 types of sadhan bhakti. We discussed that in the, is it the 19th chapter? 19th or 20th chapter. The 20th chapter of this Jaiva Dharma. The 64 angas of devotion are in the 20th chapter. There is one special characteristic. Sadhan bhakti is of 2 types: Vaidhi, sadhan, impelled by the rules and regulations of Shastra, and Raganuga, sadhan, impelled by spontaneous love. These 9 types of bhakti refer to Vaidhi sadhan bhakti. Raganuga bhakti consists of internal service to Krishna in the mood of the eternal residents of Braj and adhering exclusively to their guidance. The sadhak should practice the type of sadhan bhakti for which he is eligible. So this question of eligibility is very important to appreciate. So Babaji will describe this tomorrow, and we'll stop on this point. This is a very pivotal point. We have these 9 angas of bhakti, but beyond these, it doesn't mean that the rag anuga bhakta disregards these 9 angas. He actually engages in these 9 angas, but not with a mood of fear. The Vaidhi bhakta will engage in these 9 angas, fearful that if he doesn't, then something bad will happen, and if he does, something good will happen. So both of those motivations is not pure. There's some blemish there. But when the Raga Anuga Bhakta engages in these 9 topics, he's engaging just spontaneously. He's hearing about Krishna's pastime spontaneously. He's having kirtan to Krishna's holy names spontaneously. He's remembering Krishna spontaneously. We have this beautiful verse in the Bhagavatam at the very end of the Rasa Panchadaya. Vikriditam brajavadubi itam cha Vishnu shradan vityo nishunyat artha virinyamya bhaktim param bhagavati prati labhya karmam hridrogam asava pinoti acharena dira. This is saying Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Again, Smaranam. This is saying, first of all, we hear about the topics of Krishna. This is what Shukadev Goswami is responding to Parikshit Maharaj. Finally, he said, first of all, we hear these topics, and then we have kirtan of these topics. That means we'll speak about these topics. We'll sing about these topics. We'll sit in assemblies and discuss these topics. And then, what is the next? Smaranam. Then remembrance of these topics will come. That's the process. So first we're hearing, and then we're speaking these topics, or writing these topics, or sharing these topics in some way, and then remembrance must come. This is the process. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. So this verse describes the same process. Vikriditam Brajavati. First we hear the topics of Krishna, and then we have kirtan, and then we'll have remembrance. This must come first, and then this verse is saying that bhakti, bhaktim param bhagavati labhya, that bhakti will rise when we hear. Not that bhakti will rise prior to that by my own endeavors, but bhakti will rise by hearing this kirtan. So tomorrow we'll discuss these different topics connected with this verse and the path of Abhideya that Lahari is so kindly inquiring from Babaji Maharaj for our benefit. This is all for our benefit. Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Anantakoda Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gold Premanandi.
Hari Hari.
Now we're coming to the brick walls that Vaishnav Das has been breaking with Lahari Mahashai. Massive walls. This reputation of caste, this reputation of being a Brahmana, of actually being very knowledgeable in his Shantipur, how everyone would acknowledge him and revere him and so on, his family, especially in family life, all the children looking up to the father, etc. This abhiman, of importance is detestable for the sincere sadhak. How can I purify this misconception of my own importance? This is what has been riding with me through so many births. But this has to be ultimately replaced with Krishna's importance. How can I put that there? It's like this material world we've said before, is the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. It's perverted because it's upside down. The perversion is that I'm always thinking about myself, my own reputation, how important am I? I'm not considering sufficiently the magnitude and beauty and sweetness and splendor of that divine personality, even just the divine residents of the spiritual world. Those residents of Braj, for example, even if we want the residents of Dwarka, are superior to anything from this world at all. We can worship Krishna and Arjuna, Parthasarthi on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Even in Aishwarya, it will take us out of the mundanity of this world. Okay, so now we've been going through yesterday what was Sambandha Gyan. I seem to recollect, correct? Yes? We went through Sambandha Gyan. Now he's coming to, we were talking about Harinam Bhajan. We're on page 69, right?
68.
Huh?
68. Lahiri.
58?
68.
68.
Top Lahiri. How is Adhikar?
Oh, yes, wonderful question. Okay. So, yes, let me read back the 9 types of sadhan bhakti, and then the next paragraph. There is one special characteristic. Sadhan bhakti is of 2 types. Oh, yes, Vaidhi and sadhan, impelled by the rules and regulations of Shastra, and Raganuga sadhan, impelled by spontaneous love. These 9 types of bhakti refer to Vaidhi sadhan bhakti, Raganuga sadhan bhakti consists of internal service to Krishna. And I was commenting yesterday, even these 9 angas, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, can be applied internally also. It's not just there solely and wholly and solely focused on the external practices, but you can actually internalize these. So in the mood of the eternal residents of Braj, and adhering exclusively to their guidance, the sadhak should practice the type of sadhan bhakti for which he is eligible. So we have to determine ourselves, what am I eligible for? Now, Vaishnava or Babaji, he's going to encourage Lahari to figure out his own eligibility, which he does. Lahari, how is adhikar eligibility determined in regard to sadhan bhakti? Babaji, when the spiritual master considers that a faithful sadhak is fit to remain under the rules and regulations of Shastra, he will first instruct him in Vaidhi sadhan bhakti. When he considers that a sadhak is eligible for Raganuga bhakti, he will instruct him how to perform bhajan according to Rag Marg. Very simple. The spiritual master will guide and indicate our adhikar. And we've had experience and history of a large institution. In a large institution, you can't be necessarily encouraging Rag Marg. You have to make consideration for all the other eligibilities within that institution. So in the interests of the whole, of the greater mass, you would take preference with Vaidhi Bhakti. Raganuga is not for the masses, in fact. Raganuga is an exclusive path that only a few will want to tread. Most devotees, just like most of the devotees in the world, are worshipping in Aishwarya Bhav. That's what they, especially in South India and places Bharat like that, they're not worshipping even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's precepts. But if you come to the camp of Mahaprabhu, then first of all, we must perform Vaidhi Bhakti. What's that? Rag Marg? I can't remember that verse now. Huh? Vidhi Marg Rata Jane Swadhinata Ratna Dane Rag Marg Karana Pravesh. Krishna eventually bestows the jewel of independence unto those persons who strictly adhere to the path and of rules and regulations, thus allowing them entrance into the path of spontaneous loving devotion. Vidhi Marg Rata Jane. Beautiful verse. Bhaktivinoda Thakur verse. Okay, so Lahari is inquiring about adhikar. How is adhikar determined in regard to sadhan bhakti? And then, yes, so we read all of that paragraph. So now, Lahari, how is adhikar recognized? Kara means to do. Adi means the eligibility. What are you eligible to do? Kara comes from the word ka, karma, to do, activity. What are you eligible to do? You can't go beyond your eligibility. Krishna's talking about that in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He talks about paradam and swadam. Perform your swadam, perform your own duty. Don't try to perform someone else's duty. Don't try to be someone that you're not. It won't work out. One is eligible, Babaji, one is eligible for Vaidhi Bhakti when one desires to worship Bhagavan according to the rules and regulations of the Shastra, and has not yet experienced the principle of spontaneous attraction rag in his Atma. One is eligible for Raganuga Bhakti when a spontaneous inclination for Hari Bhajan has awakened in his Atma and does not wish to be subservient to the rules of Shastra in his worship of Sri Hari. Subservient to the rules of Shastra doesn't mean that you don't follow Shastra. It just means that the priority is on your focus to facilitate Radha and Krishna's meetings. This is our focus. Our focus is on that Leela. But it doesn't mean for a moment that we disregard the rules and regulations in some sort of like almost obnoxious way. Do you understand what I mean? I've described before how Raghunath Das, our Prayojanacharya, He's described that the lines of the rules and regulations were like carved in stone within him. He would never transgress. And I saw my Gurudev for 20 years. He never for a moment transgressed Maryad, even though he would speak sometimes about such high topics and so on, and he was obviously immersed in those topics, we could tell. But he never transgressed in any way slightly what is the Maryad, what is the activities of a sannyasi. He never stepped over the line, not for a single moment. He was showing us by example. Lahari, please, Prabhu, please determine my adhikar so that I may understand the principle of eligibility. I have not yet been able to grasp your analysis of Vaidhi and Raganuga Bhakti. Interesting. Interesting that he hasn't been able to grasp it. We've become so familiar with these terms, perhaps, over the years that we know what it's talking about. But Lahari hasn't. He's only had a few weeks of association here. So he's like a new boy, so to speak. Babaji, if you examine your heart, you will understand your own eligibility. Yes. Do you think that bhajan is not feasible without adhering to the tenets of Shastra? So now he's speaking to us, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We should examine our own adhikar and understand, what am I eligible for? Lahari, I think that it would be most beneficial to engage in sadhan and bhajan according to the rules outlined in the Shastra. Nowadays, however, it has occurred to me that Hari Bhajan is an ocean of rasa. Gradually, by the power of bhajan, I will be able to taste that rasa. So he has faith in the progressive nature of his sadhan bhakti. He's not proposing that he just performs sadhan without the focus on bhav bhakti. We've said this many times. If you just perform sadhan bhakti without the full focus on where you're going with your sadhan bhakti towards bhav bhakti, then it's like zero. So you have to cultivate what is bhav bhakti. What are those 9 symptoms of bhav bhakti, remember? Shantiya avyakta kalatvam, viraktiya manasunyata, ashabandha samutkanta, namagana sadaruchi, ashaktis tatgunakyane, pritis tad visatestale. These 9 symptoms are bhav bhakti, described in chapter 22, 21, 22. So these are the 9 symptoms of bhav bhakti. So we should know what is bhav bhakti, where is it going, what is the nature of bhav bhakti. So he's understanding that. Babaji, you can now understand that the rules of Shastra take precedence in your heart at this particular point in time. The rules take precedence because he's somewhat fearful, sensibly fearful. Therefore, because fear guides Vaidhi Bhakti. Only greed will inspire Raganuga Bhakti. Absolutely distinct here. Fear will be the significant consideration for performing Vaidhi Bhakti. I'm not confident of my own, if my heart suddenly becomes free, if I might not transgress Maryad, if all of a sudden I'm given liberation and I just do something really crazy, I'm not, so I need the prohibitions to keep me on track. So therefore, his practice of Vaidhi Bhakti is correct. Therefore, you should adopt the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti. In due course, the principle of rag will be awakened in your heart. You see, because he wants rag, it'll be awakened. But if we don't want rag, then we've got a problem. If we're not focusing in this is why it's important to explain to all people the nature of Vrindavan Leela. It's not that it's so confidential that you don't explain it. If you don't explain it, how will the Vaidhi Bhakta understand where he's going to? How will he know what is the goal? If he doesn't hear about Vrindavan pastimes, why should he even want to go in that direction? He has to hear about Leela. We've said this constantly. On hearing this, Lahari Mahashai touched Babaji Maharaj's feet. With tears in his eyes, he said, "Please be merciful and instruct me in that for which I am eligible. I don't want to discuss or contemplate anything for which I am not qualified." Lahari Mahashai is a very sober person. So he's wanting this eligibility to be fully in place for him in his bhajan, not to jump. Babaji Mahashai embraced him and told him to sit down. Lahari then humbly said, "Please instruct me clearly as to which type of bhajan I should perform." So now, can you sense that the relationship is becoming more intimate? It's evolving, isn't it? This is what spiritual life is about. It's about relationship. Everything is about relationship from top to bottom. Sambandha means relationship. Relationship with Guru, relationship with the devotees, relationship with Krishna, Radha. It's relationship. Actually, what is it? The word religion. It comes from the Latin religio. Religio even means relationship. Always people have understood that. It's about relationship. Why? Because in relationship is where is priti, where is love. Love is in relationship. It's only in relationship. If you don't have relationship, you'll sit in the Brahman. That's what's missing in the Brahman. There's no relationship. There's no sambandha with Krishna. You're just there with yourself in a void place. So relationship is absolutely essential. Please, you should practice Harinam, replied Babaji Maharaj decisively. Sri Nam Bhajan is decisively, he's saying directly. No two ways about it. Decisively. Practice Harinam. This is the path. Sri Nam Bhajan is more powerful than all other forms of bhajan. There is no difference between Nam, the holy name, and Nami. What's that? Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Namna. I'll get it in a minute. And if you chant Nam without offense, you will very quickly attain all perfection. All 9 forms of bhajan are automatically carried out when performing Nam bhajan. When one utters Sri Nam, he is engaged in both hearing and chanting. Namna Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. This is the verse that's saying Nam and Nami are non-different. When one utters Sri Nam, he is engaged in both hearing and chanting. So both simultaneously. You're vibrating and you're hearing. As one chants, one also remembers the pastimes of Hari. We went through this the other day. What is it? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. We first of all hear and then Kirtan. So we're hearing and we're vibrating the holy name. And then what is the result going to be? Smaranam. We're going to remember Krishna. That's the scientific process. As one chants, one also remembers the pastimes of Hari, and within the mind one serves his lotus feet, worships him, offers prayers to him, serves him in the mood of a servant or a friend, and offers one's very self to him. So these are the 9 angas that were discussed previously. This is what manifests when we engage in Harinam in this way. Lahari, my heart has become intensely eager. Wonderful. O Master, please don't delay in bestowing your mercy upon me. So already the process is working. Already we can see that Lahari Mahashai, in his genuine mood, is actually already approaching Bhav Bhakti in a sense, because of his eagerness. We'll see in the next few pages. Babaji told him, you should always chant these names without offense. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As he recited these names, Babaji placed a Tulsi Mala in Lahari Mahashai's hands. So Tulsi Mala is very important because we always honor Tulsi Mala. So we have a natural reverence for our Japa Mala because it's Tulsi Devi, it's Vrinda Devi. And there's no meeting that can ever happen between Radha and Krishna without Vrinda Devi's arrangements. She's arranging everything, that forest goddess. She's arranging all the meetings between Radha and Krishna. So when we have our Tulsi Mala, that's Vrindadevi also that's representing there. So it's a very sacred mala. So we will honor it. How do we honor it? By keeping it polished, by chanting regularly on the mala. As he uttered these names and caressed, as he uttered the names and caressed the beads of the mala, meditatively, Lahari Mahashai wept. Prabhu, he said, I cannot describe the happiness I have experienced today. Saying this, he fell unconscious at Babaji Mahashai's feet due to intense joy, but the Babaji caught him carefully. After a long period, Lahari Mahashai regained consciousness and said, Today I feel myself blessed. I have never before experienced such happiness. Babaji Mahashai said, O great soul, you are indeed blessed, for you have faithfully accepted Sri Harinam. You have also rendered me fortunate. From then on, Lahari Mahashai was able to stay in his kutia without fear and began to chant Sri Nam on his mala. A number of days passed in this way. He now applied tilak to the 12 parts of his upper body and would eat nothing unoffered to Sri Krishna. He daily chanted 2,200,000 names on his japamala. Whenever he saw a pure Vaishnava, he would at once offer Dandavat pranams. This is the process to take direct connection with the spiritual master. He's chanting 2 lakhs a day. That means his whole day is spent basically in chanting, and then the rest in acquiring his bhiksha, his meals, etc., and his other activities. But otherwise, he's absorbing himself fully because he's enthusiastic. He wants this. He's captured this seed has come from Babaji Vaishnava Das. That's where, and it's come originally from Prem Das Babaji. So we see the current is coming along through the parampara here. Every day, before attending to other duties, he would offer Dandavat pranams to Paramahamsa Babaji. He always served his Gurudev, and he no longer had any taste for mundane talks or for displaying his mastery in singing. He was not the same Lahari Mahashai as before. He had become a Vaishnava. How glorious. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has walked us through this whole pastime of bringing Lahari to this place beautifully with the whole philosophy and siddhanta of our Gaudiya line. One day, after offering Dandavat pranams to Vaishnava Das, Babaji Lahari inquired, Prabhu, what is Prayojan Tattva? Babaji answered, the Jiva's ultimate goal, known as Prayojan Tattva, is Krishna Prem. When one practices sadhana constantly, bhav eventually manifests, and when bhav is fully developed and complete, it is called Prem. Prem is the eternal function of the Jiva, his eternal wealth and his eternal goal. Only in the absence of Prem does the Jiva undergo various sufferings in material entanglement. There is nothing greater than Prem, for Krishna is controlled only by Prem. Prem is the complete spiritual tattva. When Anand, spiritual ecstasy, becomes extremely thick and condensed, it is known as Prem. Lahari, weeping, can I become a fit candidate for receiving Prem? Babaji embraced Lahari Mahashai and said, in only a few days you have converted your sudden bhakti into bhav bhakti, and very soon Krishna will certainly bestow his mercy upon you. Hearing this, Lahari Mahashai became choked up with bliss and rolled on the ground at Babaji Mahashai's feet, exclaiming, Ah, there is nothing except Guru. Alas, what was I doing all this time? Gurudev, you have mercifully rescued me from the dark well of sense enjoyment. Thus ends the 4th chapter of Jaiva Dharma, entitled Jaiva Dharma is Nitya-dharma. What a beautiful title for this chapter. He's brought all of the readers through to an appreciation of what is Nitya Prem, what is Nitya-dharma. He's brought us through on a whole journey here. What is Sambandha, what is Abhideya, and finally, in these last sentences, what is Prem Tattva. We know that we cannot experience Prem in this body. Absolutely not. It is not possible. The heat of prem would make the body explode. We don't have the adhikar to contain prem, but we do have the adhikar to reach the stage of bhav. And as we've said repeatedly, unless our sadhana is focused on bhav bhakti, it's saying here that sum prem, that means when in his vastu siddhi. Vastu siddhi means when he leaves this body, then prem can manifest after bhav. So we are practicing our sadhana to achieve bhav bhakti. And in the state of bhav bhakti, we will be experiencing glimmers, this Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma, Prem, Suryavam, Samyabhak, Ruchibis Chicham Rishnu, Shud Ashu Bhav Uchyate. These rays of the son of Prem are the Bhav Bhakti itself. Bhav Bhakti itself is the ray of the son of Prem. Bhav Bhakti is the beginning. So that's the conclusion of our 4th chapter. So tomorrow we've come ahead again, like we did last week and the week before. We have a day in hand, so to speak, if we're keeping our schedule to 1 chapter a week. So perhaps tomorrow we may just recap over these 4 chapters and put them in sync. And we'll try to begin our chapter 5 also tomorrow. So Vaidhi Bhakti is Nitya, not Naimitic Dharma. So that has to be clarified. The next title of the next chapter, Vaidhi Bhakti is Nitya. It's not Naimitic, it's not to be rejected. So that has to be very deeply understood. That'll be in the next chapter. Okay, Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gold Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.